All right, we're on the Country versus Metal podcast with Jeff Canada. How you doing tonight, man?
What's up, bud? Good to see you.
It's good to see you. And before we're on like our like pre-call. You said you've been playing music for 25 years?
I've been playing music full time for a living for 18 years, almost 19.
Wow.
But I've been playing live out for probably 25 years.
Wow. So,
Before that, it was a hobby.
but your full-time occupation is musician?
Has been since 2006.
Man, that's awesome.
Sometimes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was just talking to my buddy and he's like, "Yeah, there's no benefits in music." Because like I'm not married. He's like, you need to marry someone, get you some benefits, and quit your job and do music. And I'm like, yeah. And like, how long would that last?
Yeah.
First time going on the road, and like,
Yeah, for the first 10 years, 10 years or so, 10 or 11 years I was married. And so, you had all the insurance and all that stuff. And she made really good money, but I made really good money. Um, but then after I got divorced in 2019, I don't have anything. You know what I mean? No insurance, no money. Uh, I live pretty meekly. I'm a what you would call what are they called whenever you don't have a lot? Whatever that's called.
with like a homesteader, is that?
No, like a minimalist. I'm a
Uh,
minimalist. Like I don't keep things for I don't keep anything. Like I don't even know where my high school diploma is. I couldn't even tell you.
yeah. So you're like a Tyler Durden
Exactly. Yeah. If I don't
thing.
use it in 3 months, it goes in the trash.
Yeah. What was it? Things you own end up owning you.
Yep.
What?
If you can't fit everything in a suitcase or backpack or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
It now, was that an easy way to live for you, or was that just a victim of circumstance? Versus,
COVID. It was 2020. Before 2020, man, I had money. We were doing fine. I mean, I had a nice apartment and like a really really nice apartment, nice truck. All my bills were paid. I had a good credit score, and then COVID happened, and it was like, okay, what are we gonna do now? And so now I rent a room from a friend for like 650 a month, and you know, I don't have that truck anymore. I downgraded trucks and just, but I don't have a lot to worry about either. If something bad happens now, it's like, we can figure it out.
yeah, it's man that COVID just man. I hope that just never happens again because that was a terrible time. And
Well, it was a blessing in disguise for me. I'm telling you, from whenever it first happened, I turned into the victim and I complained a lot for the first like 3 or 4 months. And then something happened in like June or July. And I was like, man, that's it. No more. I'm stopping this. And so I finished my record and I was doing Facebook Lives at the time. And, everybody else was doing like kind of simple Facebook Lives. And me and my buddy Philip, we went out and bought a bunch of cameras and switchers and we were doing lives like really really good, 3 or 4 nights a week. And then and he had a good job. He worked for AT&T, and T, and so he wasn't worried about the money. So all the money that came in he just gave straight to me. And then we started getting those sponsored because the viewership started going up so much. So then I started having other artists come in and do live with me. We do song swaps and then these bars they would sponsor it to keep their name out there. So like we would do the whole thing would be presented by so and so's bar, and I got to the point where I was making plenty of money that way, and obviously when they opened back up that was cool, but uh, when something like that happens, you just got to figure out how to take the bull by the horns and do it. You just
yeah,
have to, you know.
yeah, and it just I mean, a lot about being a musician is being a hustler, being
Yeah,
able.
that's all it is. I mean, it's 100%. I mean, there's definitely a few people that kind of hit the lucky lottery, and they kind of have an easier time of it. But if you're not one of those few people, when I say that, I'm talking about like the Oliver Anthony's of the world and those
Yeah,
guys. And he still has his own problems with that whole thing that went on. But when you're doing it like William Clark Green does and Randy Rogers and all those dudes, you just gotta, it's just hustle, man. It's just hustle. And hopefully you get to the point where things get a little easier.
yeah. Dude, like William Clark Green, he's definitely one of my favorite finds,
Me,
man.
me
I,
too.
I always feel like I've never met him, but I've seen him like talk, And he seems like the kind of dude that'll never admit it, but it seems like every room he's in, he's the smartest guy in the room. It's just
Yeah,
in a
I don't
way,
know if he's the smartest. He's definitely pretty smart, but he's he's definitely real, and he's
yeah,
nice, and he's down to earth, and he'll talk to anybody. And um, I've opened up for him. I don't know how many times. It's been a handful, or I've played on the same stage with him. And I didn't meet him until like the third time because I'm not a door knocker, or I'm not the guy that goes up and be like, "Hey," I don't do all that. If we don't meet in like an organic way, then I won't, I just don't do it. And so there was like a mutual friend we were talking to, and he came over, and started talking to us, and now every time I see him, he gives me a hug, and we talk and all that stuff. Sorry about that dog walking. I hope that doesn't cause an issue. I
nah.
got hardwood floors.
So what?
Um,
You might hear
he's
mine.
a great guy, though, man. He's a great guy. He's one of my favorite songwriters. Super, super, super cool guy, for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. Like we were just talking about COVID. And the first time I saw him live, the next day I got an email from the venue. It was like, "You may have been exposed to COVID." And I was like, "Again." It was just weird because I guess maybe somebody in the band had come down with it, but man, it was yeah that was like a really weird time, or like
Yeah, I've
everything
had
was
it four
divided.
times. I've had it
Oh
four
wow,
times, and like the first time was brutal, like brutal, brutal for 7 days. I mean, I was in and out of bed. My like every 3 hours, I would get a fever, and then it would break. It was just tough, tough, tough. But then the second two times I had it were nothing. I mean, I didn't even know I had it. The only reason I tested is because my girlfriend got it, or somebody in my family got it. And I tested positive, but I didn't even know I had it. And then the fourth time I had it was more like just like a massive allergy attack,
huh.
where it was just like stuff coming out of everything, and but it was only for maybe a day, and so it is what it is, man.
Yeah, damn, 4 times. It's a
the
lot.
The world's trying to kill us, dude.
Yeah. But it's funny is like obviously before I do these, I Google people, and I loved your Instagram like intro. It's a singer songwriter who just wants to touch people's hearts through music, and oh, talk a little shit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what it's about. I was raised in the country with a couple brothers, and everybody that lived close to us were all boys, and it's just busting balls all of the time, and so I never grew out of it. I just bust everybody's balls all the time.
Yeah, it's funny. Is I mean, like, if is your best friend really your best friend if you've never been in a fist fight?
Yeah, or close to it
Yeah,
for sure.
I
Yeah.
I I just remember I got me and my buddy, we got into it, and they separated us, and they threw us out, they threw us out of the bar, and they couldn't believe we were getting in the same car to leave. And they're like, "You guys know each other?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're like best friends." And they're like, "Since when?" I was like, "Since forever." I was like, "Dude, this is a Tuesday night for us."
Yeah, that used to happen all the time. I used to bounce when I was a bouncer back in the day, and I mean, at least once a week, you had friends get into it, and and then same right, you put them in the same car, get them home. It's hilarious.
Who's
But
driving?
I mean, we're
My
you
eye's not
know,
as swollen.
we're dudes, and we that's what we like to do. We like to mess with each other. I mean, the nut thumping thing. I mean, all that stuff. It's just what we do, and there's a certain segment of society that's so sensitive about stuff like that, and uh, and some people stop being themselves, like they self-censor themselves because of the
Yeah,
sensitivity out there. I never learned that move. I never self-censor at all, and it gets me in some trouble sometimes, but it also helps me out a lot too. So
yeah, yeah. It's funny. I'm normally that person that just says something, and it's just like it just either doesn't go over well, or people just like, ugh. But I've learned like I just try not to do that anymore, especially now, because not saying like people are like TMZing me, but like sometimes like I gotta be aware. Like sometimes people, they won't come up to me and say they know me from TikTok, but they'll film me. You know what I
oh
mean? And,
yeah.
and I'm like, man, I gotta watch what I say. Because I've never said anything bad, really. Like I was like, you know what? Even if I don't like the song, I just won't put it out. I don't say anything bad, but I remember saying something about an artist I actually like, but I thought they were kind of on some medicinals that kind of didn't help their performance. And I was talking to another artist, and people had their phones out recording, getting ready to, film their interaction with him. And I'm there, like, just like, dude, you should have headlined this and blah, blah, blah. What was this? And then I look over and I see like the little red record. I'm like, uh oh.
Yeah.
Because I kind of want to be, just not. I guess it is kind of a big platform, and I wouldn't want that to get out that I said that. But
Yeah,
yeah.
we are not the same. I would have just said it and dealt with the consequences afterwards, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at it from two different ways. You know, I don't ever attack anybody on a personal level,
Yeah.
meaning I'm not going to go out of my way to attack somebody,
Hmm.
or I'm not going to single anybody out, but I do call out like things in general. And that, like, just to give you a prime example is like people that use iPads on stage, right? If you're playing a 3 hour cover show and you need that iPad to pull up requests and you want to make those tip dollars, then do that. But if you're a professional singer and you're doing song swap and you're playing original shows and you're using your phone or an iPad to read your lyrics or whatever, then no one thinks you're professional. Everyone's going to talk shit about you. And I brought that up before, and then one of my friends saw it and immediately took offense and didn't talk to me for like 3 months. And it's like, it's the truth. You know what I mean? When you're out there and you're doing these song swaps and you're playing on stage with somebody like, you know, Cody Canada or William Clark Green or somebody like that, if you're doing a song swap with those guys and you're reading off your phone, come on, man. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But and so it's stuff like that. So I'll say something like that. Uh what it was Halloween last year. You know how those memes and it has the costume and
Oh
that's what
yeah.
it did. It was half-assed musician and it had an iPad, it had a couple other things, and I just shared it and I was like, thoughts. Dude, it like broke the internet for me for a while. And it's just stuff like that, and that's what gets me in trouble.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I'm not trying to build a fan base like Taylor Swift's fan base. I'm not trying to build a fan base where I'm playing stadiums. I'm trying to build a fan base of real people that have real problems and real struggles and they want to hear real music. And to me, those people don't have those sensitivity issues or those cancel culture issues. I don't. That's just not my fan base. It's not possible to offend my fan base.
Yeah. Dude, I've seen that situation blow up before. I was one of my buddies, he was doing it was I think it was like a Garth Brooks pre-party, and I was just there just to just well, he was the guy was playing my guitar, and I was just kind of like just being a roadie, and a guy came up and said, hey man, really cool that you're just reading off your iPad. And he looked and he goes, let me explain why I have a cane. And because I was like, oh man, this guy, he never told his story, because I was like, people might ask about the iPad, but it was either a skiing accident or a bike ride, a dirt bike accident where he broke his neck and back and he was paralyzed. And he went through, they said, you would never walk again. Ends up, he goes to rehab. He learns how to walk, and he can stand without a cane as long as it's a stable surface for a little while. Of course, he needs to take breaks, but he has, he had a massive brain injury, and sometimes he can't remember his lyrics, but he writes all of his lyrics. I just remember that guy being like, oh, like they did like a documentary on it,
Yeah,
because I was telling him, I was like, listen, it's not like you're asking people to throw more money in the tip jar. I said I think it will help your credibility, because when you do see that as a musician, like, yeah, I roll like, come on, man. But like you're saying, when you're at a singer songwriter doing song swaps, you should absolutely know like your own music and the songs that you play. but I get it for the guys that are like, okay, you want to play what? And you just,
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It all depends on the show. But
yeah,
also, you can do a little bit better job of hiding it too. I've seen that
yeah,
happen. Like I've opened up for Aaron Watson multiple times and he has a teleprompter on stage.
yeah.
But it looks like a floor monitor.
Mm-hmm.
There's ways you can hide it or whatever. If I'm playing a 3 hour show, I have my iPad up there. I'm not gonna lie. I mean,
Yeah,
because I do I always? I don't need it, but sometimes somebody will come up and ask me, and I kind of know a song, and I can play it for them. And I'd rather do that than say no. But it just depends on the situation. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And also there's exceptions to every rule, man. And if you got to have that because you've dealt with something, you know, like that, then do it. But you're also just gonna have to deal with the fact that some people are gonna talk shit.
yeah,
It's just part of the deal. But you can't get mad at the people talking shit because it's a legit thing. But there's exceptions to the rules.
yeah.
You know?
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
And and the one thing about your lyrics, it might sound weird for a little bit. I really appreciate. I was listening. Oh man, I'm terrible with song titles, but I was listening to your song, and I love the fact that you keep the lyrics for the song, and you're not scared to not have every word rhyme, and I love that because like a lot of times you can hear a song and you can just tell the words there because it rhymes. You know what I mean? And I
Right.
really like when that it drives the point home, and it's a bold thing to do because people, they like their things. They like everything to roll off the tongue and to be in like a very a rhythmic way but like I appreciate like I just like that. Like I love like Charles Bukowski and stuff like, and some of that is some like the deepest like literature I've ever read, and some of it rhymes, some of it doesn't. Like when it doesn't need to, he doesn't. You know what I mean? I just really love that. And like he had a quote. He says, "Intellectuals say something simple in a hard way, and an artist says a hard thing in a simple way." And I love that. And I love that about that song because like you don't hear that a lot, and when you do, it sticks out. And that's like when I'll really focus on the lyrics because when something like that happens in a song, I'm like, this is a lyric song.
Well, all my songs are lyric songs,
Yeah,
and the question you have to ask yourself is when you're an artist, is are you writing what you're writing, or painting what you're painting, or sculpting what you're sculpting? Are you doing this for a client? And in music, I consider client, the radio and fan, like the mass populace, right? Or if you're building a sculpture if you're doing it for a professional place or something, then that's one thing. But in my work, the way I look at everything is I do this for me. I write for me. Like I come up with some sort of a message I want to put out, and I write this. I do everything for that song that I think that song needs to get the message across. I don't do it to please Morgan Wallen fans
yeah,
or the pop country radio or any of that stuff. You know what I mean? That's just not how I approach things. It's like I just want to get these songs they're in my head. I want to get them out of my head onto paper, from paper, everything all the way down, and then I want to put them out and then let the audience that likes my stuff find me as opposed
yeah,
to me doing because I just think that I I just don't think it's as easy to get to the magic if you're doing it for someone else. It's much easier to get to the magic if you're doing it for yourself.
yeah.
And
And
so, and Rick Rubin, like he validated me with he come out saying that, that's what he said. He was like, uh, the art's not for the fan base; it's for you, and then hopefully you can build a fan base around what's good for you.
yeah,
And so,
it's funny. I had an entire conversation of Mark Rubin while calling him Paul Rubin, and I was like, wait a minute, isn't that the dude that Pee Wee Herman?
yeah,
And I was like, oh man, but yeah, like, and you can tell, like, just from hearing it, I don't know, it's just an appreciation I have for it, where, like you said, like like I write this for myself, and it just shines through, and it's
Well,
just something you don't hear.
this particular song, you're talking about Me Too. Is that the one
Uh
you're talking about?
no, I wanted to say
Okay. Well, my last one I put out, Me Too, is actually my first outside song. I did not write that song.
really.
Right. A guy named Jody Booth wrote that song out of Texas. Don't know if you know who he is. He's a phenomenal songwriter. Um, he basically wrote it for me one night and sent it over to me. He's like, dude, you're the only one I know that could cut this song. And when I listened to it, it was like I wrote it. That's how much I felt it. And then he sent me a second one a couple weeks later that had some edits in it. And I'm like, no, 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 no. We're going like the first way. Like that's the way I want to cut it. And so I cut it. That's my first outside cut I've ever done. Everything else I've done, I've written, except for Don't Tread on Me. That was kind of like a paid deal where a guy wrote it and paid me to go sing it. Everything else I've written or I've co-written, but my co-writes aren't like the Nashville thing where you're going and sitting with 4 or 5 like awesome songwriters. It's usually like me and my friend.
Yeah,
Um, I view writing as therapy, and it's very hard for me to bring a complete stranger into my therapy session.
yeah,
You know, now if I want to go do a write and write for somebody else, then I don't mind. Whatever. I don't care. Then I'm down for whatever. But if it's a song that I'm thinking about cutting, I'd rather just do it myself or get one of my trusted friends in.
yeah, dude. That hook on Me Too, it comes out of nowhere. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like I
it's
saw
so
it.
good.
Yeah, it is, and like I went in thinking like, of course, the Me Too movement. I was like, you know what I
Well,
mean?
that's
That's
when he gave it to me. It was 2 years ago,
oh,
and,
okay.
and I didn't put it out. I was just been sitting on it because I didn't want it to be kind of equated to that.
Yeah, and because that's what that's that phrase is what whoop, put that up in my mind, and but it comes out of like nowhere, and like I hope people like I just put a video out of that song
Oh,
while
cool.
we're talking, and I was listening to it, and I'm like, this is good, this is good, this is good, and then there's a break, and you're like, me too. I was like, dude, it's so good, and I'm like, man, with the way people's attention spans are, I was like, you have to know, like stick around, like to stop scrolling, listen, because it's a you're getting set up perfectly, and you have no idea. The first time you hear it, I loved it. I was like, man, that was like a gotcha, like magic moment in a song, and it's so fast and in the span of a second. Dude, I love that in delivery, and I'm like, dude, that's just that. It's genius.
Yeah, it's good. It's
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
and I was like, and that was the first song.
Oh crap.
Sorry,
Sorry,
it's all
these
right.
people. Did it mess it up?
Nah, nah,
Oh, okay.
nah. We're good. Just Jeff Canada in demand. It's funny. People still call me and they're like, "Oh my god, are you on the pod?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm on the podcast. It's
Yeah.
Monday.
Stupid.
This is my Monday night football." Where?
Well, I have another iPhone that I just changed my number for the first time in like 22 years, and so I have that old phone. I probably should set it up just Wi-Fi only to put this stuff on. That way, it doesn't affect it.
Yeah, that's
I'll do that immediately.
that's why like I am never trading in another phone because there's so many moments where having a phone that isn't attached to everything in my life, in my world, where I can be just contacted no matter where I am. It's just to have that because I'll be at concerts and whatnot, and it'll ruin recordings. Or if I'm doing like a voice, then it's like, come on, man, like I just want to be left alone, like physically and
Yeah.
technology. Just
Yeah, it's honest everywhere. I have the Apple Watch, and so it's like if it's just constantly going off, and man, like, leave me alone. I just
yeah.
want to be left alone for a while. But
To be,
I'm pretty good about turning everything off, like especially at night. At night I have a box fan in my room. It sounds like a dual propeller airplane in my room, and I don't hear anything. And I tell my girlfriend all the time, if you have an emergency or my kids, if you have an emergency, you're on your own until 9 o'clock in the morning because I'm not. I'm like I'm out of it, man. You know. Um, Yeah, you got to find that peace somehow. It's tough though with all this technology for sure.
Yeah, it's fun. Like I I would love to have an Apple Watch because I feel like there would be an app with a metronome on vibrate where I could, because I don't like playing to a click, but if I could feel a click, like somebody gave me one of those, like I don't know who, it's like a watch that
Yeah, the bracelet
vibrate.
thing.
Yeah, and it's really, you can like put it on your foot, and it's really cool because I don't have to hear the tick 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 tick. But if the Apple Watch did that, but dude, I'll walk my wrist in the doors. I'm like, I
Yeah,
can't. I've never been a fan of watches, but
yeah, I don't like them either.
yeah, but the Apple Watch, it's
I punched my kid yesterday. We were out at his baseball game, and he kept hitting me, and I'm like, I'm gonna hit you back in a second. It's gonna happen. And I waited, and then finally I hit him. I like went to punch him, like in the leg or in the arm.
yeah.
And and when I went to punch him, he like blocked it, and it caught my watch, and it cut him open, or like bruised it. You know what I mean? It like caused like a small, and I'm like, dang man, that sucks. Like, don't hit me again, little butthole. He's 14 though, so he's at that age where he thinks he's the baddest man around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. You go home and you learn a move. You learn a move at school. You want to go home and see if you can put your dad in an arm bar, and it never works out.
Nah, I mean even now, my dad's 70, and I don't think I could take him.
Yeah.
That's that old man strength. You know what I mean?
See, it's a funny story. Like, it, I like, I'm 6'1", and I've been like 6'1" for a while. And I remember working out. And my dad be like, "Oh, blah 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 blah, working out, big man." And I was just like, I just like working out. And this one time, I knew he was going to go down and try to bench press what I was benching. So I put every weight on that bar. And he went down, tried lifting it, and dropped it. And he couldn't get it off of him. And I was upstairs playing guitar. And I remember hearing like a, I'm like, what is that sound? What is that? Let's go back. All along the watchtower. Woohoo! We're having a good old time. And then I hear it again. I come down, and there he is trying to get this weight off because I had the collars on and everything. And I'm like, you thought I could lift that? And he was so mad. Like he even has something in his will. Like if he doesn't pass from natural causes, I don't get anything. I'm like, what is this supposed to mean? I was like, man, one time. Man. Yeah, he was like, "Oh, you tried to take me out." And I'm like, "No." I was like, "Okay, maybe I shouldn't have done that, but you had to know, like, there's no possible way I could lift that."
Yeah, that's just why I don't work out. I don't have to worry about injuring myself.
Yeah. Oh, even if you do get toned and everything hurts, like, just doing anything.
I knew at a very, very, very early age that I didn't want to do much physical stuff. That I'm going to learn how to play guitar and sing, and I don't ever have to go to a gym again. Because
Yeah.
I mean, to me, the only reason you do that is to get the ladies, and so you play guitar and sing.
Yeah.
It used to be the case, not the case anymore. It used to be the case, not so much anymore. They don't even pay attention to us anymore.
Yeah. Well, I still feel like the singing part, that's the gym right there. Because I can't remember anybody ever coming up to, unless it's a guy that wants to talk gear or wants to ask like how I did something, which I'm totally cool with. But yeah, it's funny. I was opening up. I mean, it wasn't opening up. I was playing guitar for somebody that's actually pretty popular, and I guess these girls thought it was Brian Martin, and I guess they thought I was Brian Martin, and they're like, "Oh, can we take your picture?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." They handed the phone to him. He's like, "Really? We really doing this?" I was like, "Take my picture. This is my 15 seconds of fame right here." And then they took the picture, and they're like, somebody came over and says, "No, that's Brian Martin. We don't even know who that guy is." And I was like, and it's done.
It's still funny though. That's good. I like that. I like that.
I love, because it happens a lot of when people think you're an artist, especially if like you walk into a place dressed like you're an artist. And they're like, "Oh, are you this?" And I love when people, they're not who, and they go, "Yep, Yep,
Yeah.
that's me. And then they do an entire interview. They have a whole conversation. And then the actual artist will walk by and they're like, what? What
Yeah.
was that? And they're like mad. And it's just like, no, that's just kind of what artists do. You know, they,
Well, it's cool on two fronts. It's cool because you kind of get to pretend like you're an artist, or you're the guy for a second, and you think and they think you are. But it's also a good ego check to the artist, and all artists need that little ego check from time to time. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So it works out. So I'm sure Brian, I'm sure it was like, ah, ego check.
yeah, yeah. It's funny. I was after a co show, I was standing by the buses and I was talking to did not realize I was talking to Co's drummer and Dylan Wheeler and his guys were talking, and this kid came up. He said, "Hey man, is anybody here from the band Co Wetzel? I need to tell you how you all changed my life." And the Co's drummer goes, "Here's Otis right here. Here's a guitar player. Talk to him, man." And it was Brock. Brock kind of looks like it, you know, the long hair, and they're talking. And he's like, "Yeah, man." He goes, "I appreciate that you love my music and my guitar playing, and yeah, I love you as a fan." And I was like, "Oh man, this guy, this guy's gonna go home and tell everybody." And like,
Show pictures and stuff.
yeah. I just, and you know, it's just, it's fun stuff. Like when you're on the road, you gotta find fun stuff in little pieces, because if not, like,
It's miserable. Yeah, right.
yeah,
Yeah.
like when you're gonna go back to your videos in your bunk, and
Yep.
you know, wake up at different time, different place, and you know, rinse and repeat. It's funny, is like I was talking to my other buddy and I said, "Hey man, you didn't light a cigarette this time on stage." He goes, "Was that here?" He goes, "Man, I couldn't remember if I did that in here or Baltimore." He goes, "Man, they after a while all these clubs start looking the same." I'm like, "Man, I know that I've never been on a bus, but I definitely did, you know, the pickup truck with the trailer, and you know,
Yeah.
you wake
Yeah,
up."
I've never done the bus thing either, but even like festivals, you know, people will be like, "Yeah, man, I saw you at that one festival that one time where you did this and that and this," and I'm like, "Man, I've played so many festivals, like I don't even know. I couldn't tell you which ones or who was on what. There's a few that I can tell you because they were just it was just phenomenal experience from top to bottom. All the artists were good and very like my good time at a festival is in direct relation if the big artists are just go back to their bus and don't talk to anybody kind of thing. Does that make sense? Because sometimes we'll be on a festival and you know with so and so artist and you're kind of pumped because you get to share a stage with them and you think I'm gonna get to meet the guy and we'll get to chat and talk and whatever, but you don't ever even, like I said earlier, you don't ever get to see them because they stay on their bus. Somebody sets up their stuff for them. They come out, they play their show, they go right back to their bus. Security takes them back to their bus and they don't get back off the bus. That's it. And that happens quite often at those festivals. And so if that's the case, then I'm like, I can't keep track of which one's which. But
Yeah.
there's some festivals, like we played a festival in Stephenville, I think it was last year, and it was we played first, and it was the Hoosier Brothers, and then it was Carson Jeffrey, then Giovanni and Higher Guns. So, but if you, any at any time you went backstage, all the artists were just backstage having a good time. I mean, just talking shit and playing practical jokes and like hanging out and drinking. You know what I mean? It's just like a great time. So those festivals I remember, but the festivals where it's like, you know, like I opened up for Gary Allen a couple times, and it was, or I didn't open for him. I played a festival with Gary Allen a couple times, and you know, it's like, all right, bro, you're gonna be a diva, be a diva. Like
Yeah.
that's cool. You know what I mean? Um, but it's just crazy, man. Being on the road's nuts, or just playing out in places that you're not from is just nuts because you don't know the area, and that's one of the reasons why I quit drinking is because you know you get out to these weird towns and you don't know where you're at. And you start drinking, and next thing you know, you're in places that you know what I mean, that you
I
ugh, it's not the best places, or some stuff's about to go down that you're not gonna be able to wash off.
yeah.
And so you know, now it's like I go to these towns and basically I'll get there early and I'll go around the town and walk around and you know meet people or go to a record shop or whatever, you know, just kind of check out the town. That way, later on, if things get a little hairy, I know where I'm at and what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because Giovanni and the hired, they were at Baltimore, and this is back before Gio went and got treatment, but like he was like, "Let's go, man!" And like we're like walking around. We got off his bus, walking around, and I'm like, yeah, "Dude, man, you ever see The Wire? Like we were in the bad part of Baltimore," and he was, man, we got Trejo. I'm like, no, like we should not be walking around right now. I was like, look, all the businesses are closed down, and I just saw him like a couple weeks ago, and man, he's doing great. And he starts telling the story, and I'm like, yeah, like I never repeat stories, you know what I mean? And I was just like, oh, really? Okay, okay. And he tells this story. He's like, oh man, he goes, I didn't realize we were in the hood of Baltimore, and I didn't. It's man, it was funny. Like he was like, get me 1,000 singles, and I'm like, no, like there's not $1,000 in this bar. And I'm like, no, dude, no, do not add. Get that singles. I'm like, no. And I asked, I was like, hey, can I get 1,000 singles? And they're like, who are you? Like, who do you think you are? I'm like, I'm the guy that knew I shouldn't ask that, but okay.
Asked it anyway. Yeah, those guys throw down, man. There's a lot of guys, or they did. Those guys. There's a lot of people, and I used to be one of them, man. We would get so drunk, dude, and we would do just crazy, crazy things that nothing positive can come out of it. I mean, I've been naked in a hot tub at 8 a.m. on the ninth hole of a golf, like a house right by the ninth hole of a golf course. I've done that. I mean, I've taken all of my clothes off except for my socks and streaked through a bar before. Like, I've done a lot of crazy stuff. Just because it's all we us as entertainers. Somebody like Geo, we're entertainers, right? And we want to entertain, and we're already a lot. Like when I'm a lot sober, I will do anything for attention. I'm a attention whore to the T. And when you start putting alcohol on top of that, bro, it's like magnified times a million.
Yeah.
And so there's just between 20 I separated my wife in April of 2018, and I met my current girlfriend in June of 2021. That time in between that time is a total blur of just alcohol and drugs and women and just full-fledged debauchery, man. Just total debauchery. It really, I think if it wasn't for COVID, COVID was one of those things where it kind of like you got to find alternate ways to entertain yourself.
Yeah.
Because before that, I was out every night. And then when I came out of COVID, I was like, I released my record in November, and then it was just, I'm just driven. And then I decided to quit drinking. It's 998 days ago. I have 2 more days to
Wow.
hit 1,000 days. And I mean, every now and then I didn't have to go to treatment or anything. I wasn't an alcoholic. We partied.
Yeah.
And I quit cold turkey, and I went probably a year without even having a drop. Now, every now and then, if we're out at dinner, I'll have a margarita or you know, my last ticket event I did, I think I drank an old fashioned on stage. It was a listening room deal. Every now and then I'll have a drink, but it's probably been 8 or 10 in the last 1,000 days.
Yeah.
So
It's, I quit the hard stuff because it's just, it, somebody would take the wheel. I don't know who it was. And I would just do all these crazy things. And I just hated waking up. And, you walk outside, there's a sombrero on your passenger side seat, and it's wrapped in construction fence. You're like, what happened? And it's just, but it's funny. Like, I haven't had a like hard liquor drink in a while, but it's been 2 old fashions in the last like 20 years. And I miss like, like it's a famous drink and you associate it with like like I always like think of stuff like that, like Hunter S. Thompson,
yeah,
and I always associated drinking like those fancy drinks. Like you feel like closer to the people that you loved growing up but and you knew they drank stuff like that, and it was like it was weird. But then like after the first one, you're like, man, it really, blah blah. It opens up your mind. And you think of them, and then it's like, all right, let's have 10,
Yeah.
and then it's just like, Hunter who, woo,
Yeah.
like,
And then nothing good happens from it.
no,
You wake up the next day and you check your bank account, you're down, $150. Cause yeah, I don't know if you're like me, but I'm like a giver. And so when we're going full fledged and everybody's taking shots, I'm going to buy the whole place of a round of shots,
yeah,
uh, and so you lose I mean, dude, I've done so much stuff. I spent $1,600 one night on two chicks at a strip club. Uh, Nothing yet. And nothing ever happened. Like I didn't even get anything from that. It was just, I just don't have $1,600 in my bank account now, and I know that I was with two chicks. It's just stupid, stupid, stupid stuff, man. And I don't have, back then before 2020, I had the money to kind of to do that stuff. Now, if I wake up, if I spent $1,600 on something, it better be a song. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Or we're gonna have a problem. We're gonna have a serious problem.
Yeah, I just remember like you'd wake up and I'd be like, man, I knew I'd throw up. I knew I threw up somewhere, but and I'd have to like get the dog involved. I'm like, okay, buddy, we're on a mission. We need to find out where in the house I got sick at.
Yeah. And that's when it's bad. When it's bad is when it goes too far. And I have videos of me rolling around in a parking lot just in my own vomit. Where it's just like rolling around doing vomit angels. You know what I mean? Just being like what are we doing? And really what got me, what really kind of, I'd slowed way down when I met my girlfriend. And I think I've only been drunk around her maybe once, maybe twice. Um, what really got me was I was playing the Houston Rodeo, and I was doing one of the small stages there at the Houston Rodeo. And oh no, it was the cook-off, the rodeo cook-off, which is like in Houston is like this big. We have the largest rodeo that exists, and it's like you know almost 2 full months. But then they have this rodeo cook-off is 3 days, and it's like thousands of people, like hundreds of thousands of people go out there. And I got out there, man, and I remember taking a shot of something. It was like one of these mixed, I don't know, one of these things these girl bartenders make. My buddy wanted shots. We took a shot, and then I remember taking a shot of straight Jameson not too long after that, and then I don't remember anything after that. And so obviously I was given something I shouldn't have been given, right?
Yeah.
But I don't use that as an excuse because if I didn't drink, I wouldn't have. I mean, I kept drinking after that. There's videos of me drinking all night, but then at like 10:30 at night, I'm walking around. I got my guitar in one hand and my case in the other. I can't find my truck anywhere. My girlfriend's calling me. I finally pick up the phone. I promised her I wouldn't drive because I had a hotel like 3 or 4 miles down the road. I promised her I wouldn't drive. Um, and then at like midnight, I woke up at the hotel, passed out. I drove to the hotel. She's calling me. She's thinking I'm with somebody because some girl tagged me in a Facebook post.
Mhm.
So she's thinking I'm with somebody. I'm not. I'm completely alone in this hotel room. Woke up like just kind of foggy, and then went back to sleep. And then the next morning, I had to play downtown for the mayor of Houston. We did their rodeo cook-off thing and on the city hall steps, and it was like 40 degrees out there, and I was just sweating. I mean, just it's like 35 or 40 degrees, windy, and I'm just like, I mean, just drenched in sweat. So it's just such a bad time, man. And I was like, and then I was supposed to go back and play the cook off that night. So I called the guy and I'm like, what's the deal? He's like, no, dude, you're fired. Like, don't even, because apparently I like took my shirt off. My other buddy was playing another tent. I almost got tased by some cops because I was talking shit to some cops, and it was just a bad night. And I woke up the next day and I'm like, okay, I've got to I've got to own this, right? I've got to own what happened. I'm not going to make any excuses. I got to own it. So the first thing I did was I posted on social media saying, "That's it. I'm quitting. That's it. I'm not drinking anymore." And if I've made that post 100 times, you know what I mean? But I was consistent with it for well over a year, and the rodeo saw that, and they banned me for like 3 years or something. But then they lifted it, and they had me back out there last year, and I had a great time. I won't play the cook off again because it's just debauchery, man. It's just it's just alcohol and just terrible. It's terrible. And so I don't play that, but I actually got to play for the actual rodeo at one of the smaller tents or smaller stages last year. So, luckily me doing what I needed to do kind of let everyone know that I'm serious about this, because
Yeah.
I don't think I was serious at all beforehand. I think I was just out playing cover shows and getting drunk and partying, waking up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I went from that to like what I am now, which is like wake up in the morning, go to work, be driven, do as much as I can to get my name out there, network my ass off, go see as many shows as I can, go hang out with people. It's a crazy business, man. It's a crazy, crazy business that you have to be all in to have any sort of success.
Yeah.
Unless you're one of these lucky people like Gavin Adcock that for some reason got the right viewers on him and he can still go out, or Coetzel, they can go out and they can act like that because that's their brand.
Yeah.
They made a brand out of being what I've been for the last 15 years, you know what I mean? And that's just not what I wanted my brand to be. I didn't want my brand
Yeah.
to be this kind of guy that goes out and, that's just not what I wanted for myself. So I'm glad I got everything cleaned up, and it's been nothing but positive since then, for sure.
Yeah. That dude, that's good because even if that did catch on, like when you were like that, and you started getting all the viewers and whatnot, and you might come to a point where you're like, man, I don't want this. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
people, like I'm an artist. I'm not pro wrestling. This is
Yeah.
entertainment, but it's more, you know what I mean? Music, not the
Yeah.
theatrics of all that. And,
And
and
I'm
it's,
older too. I'm
yeah,
older now. I'll be 46 in January, and it's like in your 20s, you're invincible.
yeah,
Nothing can get you. And so you just do everything you got to do, and most people grow out of that in their 20s. But if you're like I was, and yeah, playing in bars and stuff, you're not going to grow out of that. And
yeah,
so in my 30s I acted like I was in my 20s. And luckily that rodeo thing happened to kind of just really you know put the spike in it. But it's just you can't live like that, man. You can't. You dude, I mean, at one point I was doing 15, 16, 17 shots of Jameson in a show, like
wow.
on stage during a show. That's insane, you know?
That's the bottle.
Yeah. Well, the
Give me
bottle's
another
28, right? 28 shots in a bottle or something like that.
in a 750 or 1.75.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't remember. It's been a while since I owned a bar. Uh, yeah, I don't know how much it is in a set. I thought it was like 28, but maybe that's mixed drinks. I don't remember. It's been a long time. I
yeah,
stay away from it now.
yeah. So do I. I, I keep the last one I had. I said nope, I'm done. And
Yeah.
I just look at it.
And now I'm getting older, I'm like older, where things are starting to break down. My eyesight's going. Luckily I never got anything back in those days. I didn't get to the point where I had like liver disease or any of that stuff, which
Yeah,
is good. Because I've lost some friends to that, and it's just bad stuff, man. Like alcohol is one of those things that's great till it's not.
yeah. I
Like you
exactly.
said earlier, you drink one and you're having the Hunter S. Thompson thing, and you drink two and you're smiling and cutting up, and you drink three and you're partying. But when you start getting into four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, it's like nothing good's gonna happen. Like
Yeah,
nothing good's gonna happen from this.
yeah,
Nothing.
yeah. That's I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, me neither. Even now, I mean, but I won't now. Now it's like every now and then I'll like, man, I'm just gonna order a shot. I want a shot. And I'll order it and I'll go to smell it and I'm like, I don't want it, and I'll give it to somebody. So I do that like once every month or so. But other than that, it's been pretty easy. I mean, I don't. My big thing is right now I'm on day 4 with no sugar or caffeine,
Ooh,
and I am way more addicted to sugar than I ever was alcohol. Like I will right now when I'm driving down the road and I see a convenience store, it takes everything in my power not to pull over and get a Monster or get a candy bar.
oh
I
really?
mean, I'm shaking.
You
Like I
like your
literally
sweets?
have the shakes. That stuff is so addictive, man. And so I'm trying to kick that right now, and it's, whew, it's. I think heroin might be easier to kick. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. It's pretty bad.
it, it's funny. Like when I was growing up, like I wasn't allowed to have like candy, and like my candy was broccoli or cauliflower and ranch, just tipping ranch. So thankfully, like I know a lot of people like they need a Snickers bar, and it just blows my mind. Or like when you see somebody make a coffee and they put so much sugar in it, like the spoon sticks straight up, and I'm like,
Yeah,
dude, like what? Like I've never. Now, don't get me wrong, sugar tastes awesome in coffee, you know, but like it's just weird. Like you feel really good, and then you like, woo, and then you're like, oh, I need more to get that.
yeah. Well,
And
my problem is from I was raised like ultra poor, right? So I mean, during deer season and stuff, we would eat well. We have good protein and that sort of stuff, but um, for the most part, it was, you know, we're eating ramen noodles and we never were healthy ever. Like I
yeah,
ever have I ever been healthy until I got in my early 20s and I joined the army and I started working out to get ready to ship off to the military. Um, that never worked out. I hurt my ankle in basic and they sent me home. But that's probably the only time in my life I've ever like been in shape or healthy. You know, I was running a couple miles a day and doing push-ups and sit-ups and eating right. Um, and then last November I started like really paying attention to what I'm putting in my body better, and I lost like 30 pounds,
oh, wow,
and I gained a little bit of it back. I mean, I'm 6'3" and I weigh 230 right now, which it doesn't look like I'm fat,
yeah,
right? But unless I take my shirt off, I take my shirt off, it's like, nah, you got little man tits going on there. But on the outside of my clothes, it doesn't really look like I'm fat. So now I'm like, I'm not really trying to lose weight anymore. I'm just trying to like just be a little healthy, you know?
yeah, and like little stuff does help. Like
Yeah.
even and you'll see results like just by changing like a little couple little habits. So and it does all help. And like you said, when you do get older, and it's like I kind of like this place. I want to stick around. You know.
I'm not really that, I'm at that place in my life right now. I know this sounds bad, but if it wasn't for my girl and my kids, I would be like, nah, I'm ready to check out, dude. I mean, I'm so it's multiple faceted. I mean, it's the world, it's the country, it's this political craziness that we've been in the last, I don't know. It seems like for me, it seems like for me since Clinton got kicked out office or whatever, when he got whatever he got
Oh,
um,
impeached.
impeached. When Clinton got impeached is to me is when it seems like we've been just in this crazy political thing since that day. You know, the craziness of George W. and Iraq and all that shit, and then you went from that to Obama. And the way that I was raised, like I was raised ultra hardcore right wing conservative. I'm talking about racist, mean, hateful, just we lived out in the country, and that's just the way we were raised. And so, um, to have a black president elected was crazy. It was just nuts. I don't live in that world now. That's what's really funny is after Obama got elected, I actually went completely the other direction. I went as far left as you could possibly go. And, now I'm like back in the center and I'm
Yeah.
where normal people are. And I've leaned a little left, leaned a little right on some things. But it just seems like we've been in this like political nightmare really since they impeached Clinton. That's what it feels like to me. I don't feel like we've had um, any kind of like hope as American citizens since that time. And I think with this new election, and I don't want to get political and say which way I go, but with this new election, I just feel now that it's over, I just feel like a little bit of hope. We were down. I just shot a music video for another buddy of mine down in Matagorda Bay, and we were out there. We're going through the canal, and there's a bunch of barges. And the guy that was on the boat, he was like, "You see all these barges here?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Those were not here 3 weeks ago." He's like, this place has been completely empty for like the last 2 years. And he's like, people are ramping up because they know that things are coming. And so I think for the first time right now, even if you don't like Trump, if you take Trump out of the equation and you look at who he's got in that, with Elon and Dana White, and it just seems like we have a little bit of hope right now. I don't know if do you feel that or no?
It's always been like the president's like a general manager of a baseball team, which I've heard before, and it's kind of as long like
Yeah.
because I mean I work for a company that's attached to the government. That's the only
Mm,
thing I care about.
yeah.
That's like
Well, for me, it's not just that, it's everything, right? It's
mhm,
it's it's the it's take Spotify, right? The fact that they can legally do what they're doing,
yeah
it just that just speaks to the government to me, right? Like we've propped up businesses so much in this country where it's all about the bottom dollar, and it's about how successful the businesses are. It's not about how good you and I are. You know what I mean? And I think
yeah
for the first time, you actually have some people with, like I said, with Elon Musk and RFK Jr. that that are finally gonna think about us. They're thinking about us, our health, our the fact that we have to spend so much in taxes to make that machine even work. You know what I mean? I just feel a little hope finally, and thank God. But being an artist, so you have the government that's the craziness, the political stuff, the news, and all that, and then we went from going to a room and trying to make fans in that room to now coming on these computer screens and trying to make fans on these computer screens. And we went from just writing a really good song to getting to make money off that song to now it's like you got to write the song and you got to be a content creator and
yeah
you got to wear all these hats. So it's not the best recipe. Like I'm a fatalist anyway, right? Like I love like post-apocalyptic movies. I love like Book of Eli, Mad Max, and all that shit. And I've always kind of been a fatalist. Like when I see a hurricane coming in, I'm like, oh yeah. Arr. Uh, and so when you take that kind of mentality and you stack on just how hard it is in this industry right now, and then all the political stuff, it's just like, man, a lesser person would have checked out. You know what I mean? And I'm just thankful I have my girl and my kids to keep me driven.
yeah yeah that's
You know,
good. But
not to be all down in the dumps and
oh I
stuff, but
know
it's like that's just the way I feel about things, and I think that's what people want to see. I think people want us to be real and they want us to be authentic and they want us to be vulnerable. Um, and you don't see a lot of people doing that, and so I just try to always be that.
yeah
I try.
it's like you're saying like the only like media you used to have to do back in the day, like when you're like independent, was like, sell your tapes out of your trunk. And
Yeah,
now
or
it's like,
maybe do some radio interviews.
yeah, radio. Man, I miss radio. But and like the one thing that always kind of like bothers me is like when you see an ad and it shows like, it'll be like this artist, and underneath it would be like 6 million Spotify followers, and like this, that, and this, and I'm like, man, like they can be bought. Like sometimes you see the big numbers, you're like, ooh, wow, and it's like, but how like organic is that? And is it? It's just it's got to be discouraging to like someone who like does the grind, goes out, plays, has original music, has great in their scene and where they play, where they have great reactions to crowds and everything. But like like you'll have your videos of that, but they just want to see like certain numbers that, there's so much talent that probably gets overlooked just because of these numbers that essentially, I mean, if you are the artist with the big numbers, it's a big deal.
Yeah,
But with the, some of those guys, like, there's a lot of autotune involved. And some of them, like, I've seen, like, they don't even have like a regular band. It's just like, like I do it. I do it in my house, but we're gonna go out, and it's weird how like for a while there, like it was like, what contest have you won? Like we're gonna make you all compete, and we're gonna make one of you a superstar. And
yeah,
it's so weird because I remember like flyering, you would you know, it's like Mitch Hedberg said, you throw this away. But like, you know, like 1 out of 30 would be like, oh, cool show. I'm going to go. And like, that kind of is nice because you don't have to put the footwork in. But man, like the reliance on like people wanting it just used to be like, I thought the digital press kit was cool because it's so convenient for someone to pull it up, you know, see some videos, hear your music. And it's cool. It's a cool way of introducing yourself. Very easy when you can just
Yeah.
be from a laptop and send it to like as many people as you have addresses for. But just seeing these flyers with like we have this many Spotify and TikTok, and because it doesn't matter. Like I have 400,000 followers, but I don't go outside and people are like, "Hey, yeah."
Yeah.
It Nothing has changed, you know.
Yeah. No, you're right. But I think that, well, I'm down here in Texas. Where are you at?
I'm in Delaware.
Okay, so Texas is its own thing, right? We have our own ecosystem down here, and we have our own studios, and we have our own venues, and we have our own music scene, and we have our own bands, and it was always really cool because you had Texas, you had Nashville, right? And Texas was like you would get so big in Texas that you had to go to Nashville to make that next step. Social media opened up a lot of doors for a lot of folks, man, and it's really cool. The problem is once again, it's about the numbers.
Yeah,
It's about the company and what's best for the company. It's not about what's best for the users, right? If it was about what was best for the users, then you would take somebody like me who spent since 2012 building this just take Facebook for example. Since 2012, I've been very, very active on Facebook, and I've built myself up to 17,000 followers. Now, that's not a lot of followers in the grand scheme of things, you know? But what you could, at the very least, what you should do is, but you should reward those of us that have done that and let us put something out, and you should show it to all of our followers.
yeah,
But when TikTok came aboard, they had this whole algorithm thing, you know, that the other social medias didn't have, and it was like it was based on how well it was performing, right? Well, but those can all be manipulated, and they can go in and say, no, this user, you know, no, we're not going to show his stuff to somebody, or this user we are, or this user we're not. I mean, just look at the Twitter files and everything that happened with that. So so how do you do it? Like if think about it right now, if you're somebody that's not at that William Clark Green level, you know, if you're smaller than the William Clark Green level, if you're at his level and you can sell 1,000 tickets, 15 tickets, 1,500 tickets wherever you go, you have a good career. You're going to be fine.
yeah,
But if you're below that level and you're on my level or like Trent Cowie's level, you know, um, how are you going to cut through? I mean, there's 150,000 new songs being uploaded to Spotify every day. So obviously, you write a song. How's that going to cut through? And then you have all of this content being put out, and it's not even you have just as much of a chance of going viral with one follower as you do with 100,000 followers. You know what I mean?
yeah. That's wild when you think of it.
So it's like you're not rewarding the people that have done the job of building on that platform. You're you're rewarding whatever makes you the most amount of money, which I understand, I get it, but man, like you're killing you're killing industries. They're killing industries. I mean, like if you have a bar and you post your specials on Facebook, nobody sees it. Nobody sees it.
Yeah,
Where before 2019, 2018, if I posted something on Facebook, then a big majority of people would see it. And now it's man, I don't know how to get through that or get over that. I try every day. Every
yeah.
day I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. I'm about to start a TikTok channel called the Jaded Musician, and it's gonna be like me, but with a voice disguiser and behind a black shadow, just talking shit about the music industry.
Like anonymous.
Yeah, and eventually I'll come out to who it is. Well, now they'll know who it is, but you know what
I
I
was
mean.
gonna say,
Like,
got you, Bruce
they
Wayne.
won't though. They won't because nobody's going to pay attention that close enough to the. You know what I mean?
I
Does that
know
make
that
sense?
beard. I
So
know
it's
that beard
like,
anywhere.
yeah, it's just like I don't know, like, how do you cut through? I mean, I have my podcast. You have so many podcasts going on. How do you get people to watch it? You know,
Yeah.
I know, like me, I watch Joe Rogan's podcast. Well, shit, that's 3 or 4 hours right there.
Yeah.
I've got the Gotta Love Texas Music podcast. I got Texas Toast. I got Soul Gravy's podcast. I got your podcast. Like, okay, which one do I watch? Because I only have so many hours in the day to watch
Yeah.
them. So then it gets broken down to the little bitty clips that has everything taken completely out of context. And I mean, there's some people, I'm not kidding, there's some people that think podcasts are just the clips. They
Yeah.
don't
I
even know that there's a long form video out there.
I I run into that a lot. Like it blows my mind at how many people are like like on the Cody Jinks clips are like, who is this guy? And I'm like, then they're like, well, why does he think his opinion is worth anything? And I'm like, oh my god, like, and I was like, you missed the beginning where he's like, man, I missed this, and then and I don't make it like that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I have a lot of stuff where I could definitely make clickbait, and like I know some videos I know they would pop off, but I would be misrepresenting people, and I don't want to do that. Like some
Yeah.
people put like something that sounds like breaking, and it's a wild thing, but it's only like half of a sentence, and then you watch the rest of the video if you're that type of person. But if you don't listen to the rest of the video, that context is totally thrown out, and you think that 1 minute or 30-second clip of something is like that's what that's about. And when people were saying like how dare you compare George Strait to Jelly Roll, and I'm like, I'm not. I'm defending George Strait, saying they're giving these awards to people that just jump over to the genre, get their awards, and go back. And I was just saying, I was like, man, I thought there'd be a bunch of like a council of people being like, no, we're gonna respect the people who have done what they've been doing for the last couple decades of grinding in the genre. And you know what I mean? I was like, how can you take it like that? But it's like to get someone to listen to or watch the entire thing, or even the long form is, yeah, good luck with that. You have to, it's a dedicated person. But like you
Yeah.
said, like when there's a lot of good ones out there, and it like podcasts for me was like when I worked far away, it was, I'm not a fan of like the radio sound. Like I'd put
Yeah.
them on, but now like I have a 10-12 minute drive to work. It's just,
Yeah.
I'd rather just listen to a couple songs, because like it would take forever to listen to a podcast.
Yeah, that's what I do. So I mean, I'm on the road all the time, and so I'm driving 2, 3, 4 hours to a gig, so I can knock out a lot of that while I'm doing that, which is cool. So I do have my favorite podcast. I listen to every one of Rogan's, unless he's got a comedian on. I usually just fast forward to that shit, um, unless it's somebody I like, you know. But one thing I started making myself do. What was going on back in the day is I stopped listening to music altogether. I was listening to sports talk radio and podcasts, and I kind of lost my love for music because I was playing 300 shows a year. They weren't my music. I was playing Brown Eyed Girl and shit inside the
Yeah.
just whatever whoever's bar, and so I just kind of lost the love for music. I didn't write a song for like over 10 years, and like I got to figure out how to like find my love for music again. And so what I started doing, and that's the one beautiful thing about that is one of the beautiful things about Spotify, right? Is you everything's at your fingertips, and you can find so much stuff. And so what I do is for 1 hour every day, 1 hour every day, no matter what, it's one of my priorities. I sit down, I put my headphones on, and I listen to music I've never heard before for 1 hour every day. And it's got to be something I've never heard, and it could be any genre. You know what I mean? Like like I used to play shows with the guys from Nothing More. Those guys.
I know that name.
Yeah, they're like a metal band, and so every time they put out something new, I'll like go listen to it, and then I'll listen to everything else that Spotify suggests. You know what I mean? So it's not just like I'm listening to country music or sad songs or anything like that. I kind of listen to everything, but I try to every day for 1 hour listen to stuff I've never heard before, and which has changed my whole life because it just it inspired me to write, and it it gave me some sort of a regiment every day instead of, like I said, just waking up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and rolling out of bed. I mean, because that's what we used to do. It was like you go play your show, you get drunk, you go to IHOP or whatever for breakfast afterwards. You roll in the house at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. You pass out. You wake up at 1 or 2 in the afternoon. You play some video games. You might whatever, and then you go to your gig and you do it all over again. That's what you just did every day. There was never any time or room for any kind of like artistic or creative outlet, you know?
Yeah.
And so I am super thankful for COVID, um, because it kind of snapped me out of that whole mentality, you know? That's like the silver lining of that whole debacle.
Yeah. It definitely does sound like it was like your like reset.
Yeah, it for sure was. I mean, there's quite a few things. So 2018, my mom got sick, and she passed away like 16 or 18 days later. And I wrote my song "Needle and Thread." I wrote that while we were actually sitting in hospice, and I wrote the lyrics, you know. And that was the first song I've written in like 10 years. And so came back and I was like, you know, I'm just gonna go and record this and I'm gonna put it out on her birthday. And she passed away the day after Mother's Day, so I had a few months, well, 6 months or so. And so I went to the studio, recorded the song, put it out, and it had like a country vibe to it. And everybody just was like head over heels with it, you know? I mean, not like it didn't. I'm talking about my friends, like my
Yeah.
family, like like people that were already knew who I was. Um, I mean, it's a sad song about my mom dying, you know, and she was a seamstress in a small town, and that's where the needle and thread kind of comes from. And so I was like, you know what, man, screw it, dude. I'm gonna write a whole record, and that's about the time I really started like really getting back into pushing my own brand. Because in the early 2000s, I'd opened up for Pat Green and Corey Morrow, and you remember Dishwalla. I played a couple shows with those guys, and Bowling for Soup. You know, just some like really kind of crazy eclectic stuff, and then I went to the oil field and worked there for 10 years. And then I left there and just got lost in the cover world. Cause you can make a lot of money doing that. I mean, you can make
Yeah.
$150,000 pretty easy of a front man of a cover band. And so I was doing that. And then, you know, and I also bought a bar. I was done with the music business. So I bought a bar, and then my partner died. And that
Jeez.
about the same time my mom died. And so that was a whole mess. And then that's whenever all the drugs and alcohol started, like really, really, I mean, I was already drinking before that, but I was just like really bad. And then, so I was kind of half in, half out. I've started doing some opening spots. I got to open up for Stoney LaRue and Kevin Fowler and some guys like that. But I really wasn't like all in, all in. But then when COVID happened, it was like, that's it. We're in. We're going. I'm not going back to that life of just playing at a different bar every single night for, you know, people dancing and having a great time to shit I didn't write or I didn't record. It's not my song. I just, man, that's a miserable way to live, dude. It's
Yeah.
miserable. It's soul sucking. It just sucks your soul. And everybody's like, you should be happy. You know, you get to play music for a living. But it's like, man, you know, it's like, I don't know. It's like writing a book. It's like taking a Tolkien book and rewriting it and then putting it out as yourself and thinking that that's cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not, and I'm not saying it's not cool to do some covers. I do some covers at my shows now, but it's just different. You know, I'm just playing, like I said, Brown Eyed Girl and Want to Be a Billionaire and all that stupid pop crap. Miserable, miserable way to live. Miserable way to live. And so I'm
Yeah.
still jaded from that. Like I'm still, but I'm not near as bad as I used to be. You know, I used to be super negative and very, very negative. Where you're like, dude, shut up, man. Like, shut up. So, but now I've kind of worked my way out of that. And now I'm trying to surround myself with people that are positive and people that are doing something, people that are
Yeah.
successful, or at least I can tell they're trying to be successful.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing you have in this industry that you don't have in a lot of industries. You know, in most industries, if you go to work and you suck at your job, you're not going to have that job very long. You know, if you go to your job and you show up drunk, you're not going to have that job very long. Or if you
Yeah.
go to your job and you half-ass it, you're not gonna have that job very long. But in this industry, in the music industry, you have people that are all in and super professional and doing everything they got to do, and they're playing the same exact stages of people that are what I said earlier, that don't give a crap, aren't really doing anything much, but going out and playing. And so it's just it's a very, very strange industry. I look at some of the people that play on some of the stages I play at, and I'm like, man, like either A, why are they playing there, or B, why am I playing there?
Yeah.
And it's not like that in a lot of other industries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like being surrounded like people with that entrepreneurial spirit in music. It's you need to be surrounded by people like that that are always looking for ways to make money and to get people interested in your art.
Yeah.
Because if you just have someone that's just like, I'm the best there is, I don't need to practice, I don't need this, they'll come to me. No. Yeah, and granted, if you got that rich uncle, or the guy that you got a cousin in the industry, it works for you. But if you're just out there like cutting your teeth, you need those people that are like, hey guys, like it's especially like just sit down and be like, we need to what we're doing, all the positives, and what are the things we need to improve on, and kind of treat it like a business, not suck the fun out of it, but like you
Right.
just need those people that's just like we like they always want more, because that's how I am. Like when you get off the stage and you see all the people, and it's like, okay, like I want to see more. I want to see more people. I want to
Yeah.
see more downloads, more streams, more everything, because and a lot of like I at the end where we were stopped playing, I was tired of playing places where like we knew there was gonna not be anybody there. I'm like, why are we wasting our time? We could drive somewhere else. We could go somewhere else, And it was just like,
Yeah.
man, it's and people were like, whatever, we're getting paid. I'm like, dude, like really? Like
Yeah, I hate that attitude, man. I
yeah,
hate that attitude. You're
we
getting
got
paid no
paid.
matter what. Man, it's not about that. I mean, yes, I need the money. I want the money. But let me tell you something. And I say this all the time. If I was to put the amount of effort that I put in my career into any other career, I'd be a billionaire by now.
I tell people that
Like
all the
there's
time.
no doubt about it. I could go out and I could buy me a lawnmower. And if I put the amount of work, effort, and time spent into mowing lawns, I would already have 10 crews and own a warehouse. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But it's this industry that we choose now, and that's another thing. I don't feel like I chose this industry. I feel like this chose me, if that makes sense.
yeah,
And so I wouldn't be here without it. Like I really wouldn't. I legit would not be alive without music and without performing. I mean, that stage time, and that speaks to what you're talking about. Like that stage time is my happy place. And if and the more people that are out there in front of me, the happier that place is.
yeah,
And when you're up there and you're playing for nobody, yes, it's still you can still have fun like with the guys, or even if it's by yourself, you try something new. But it is this whole like this is pointless. Like why am I doing this? Why am I playing this show? Like I'm not even gonna make one fan from this show. You know?
yeah,
It's tough. It's tough. But hey, we are where we are, and we're doing it because we love it, right? I mean, that's why we do it. We do it because we love it. That's why I do it. I do it because I love it. I do it because it's like oxygen. I can't breathe without it. If I don't have my guitar, I don't have songs to write. Now, the one difference between me and you is I don't really care about the numbers. I don't pay much attention to them. I don't check them that often. But the only number I care about is the number of people that are at my shows, and the number of people that are like you can have. It's pretty easy to get to 17,000 followers on Facebook if you do it in a way that you're trying to get to 17,000 followers on Facebook. That's
mhm,
not the way I tried to do it. I tried to get 17,000 followers on Facebook by getting 17 legit like those 17,000 followers are people that follow me, right? It's
yeah,
not just a bunch of bots, and it's not a bunch of people that in Brazil or Korea or where, you know what I mean? It's like if you look at them, the majority of them are in Texas or close to here. And so I'm pretty proud of that fact that I built those numbers that way. Same thing with my Spotify listeners. You know, I just hit 5,000 Spotify monthly listeners, and at one point I had like 25,000. But those people weren't real people.
Yeah.
That was just some sort of something that happened. But then I dropped all the way down to like 2,100 followers, and but these that I'm getting now are like real followers. They're real people. I mean, I'm sure there's some bots in there because you just can't get away from it. But for the most part, they're real people, and that's what I want to get to. I don't have no desire to play a sold out stadium in front of. How many people do you think go to, like, let's say a Parker McCollum show? How many people do you think go to a Parker McCollum show that are really fans of his music? And how many people do you think go to a Parker McCollum show that are there just for the Instagram or for the TikTok reel or for the how many people do you think that is?
Yeah, dude, that's yeah. It's funny. I thought about. It's funny you brought say it because he was coming. I don't know if he was coming up here, and I was like, wonder if I should go. I do like a couple of his songs. I never really listened to him, but I was hanging out with his brother, and I had a great conversation with his brother.
Tyler's a good dude, man.
He was like, yeah, I remember he was like, man, you ever heard of a band called Carcass? I said, yeah, and he goes, man, I don't have anybody to talk to around here about that kind of music. I was like, dude, we can hang out all night, but there, it there are people that go out just for the content and whatnot, and it's weird how like some people go out and it'll be for Parker, but it always has to include them. Like their backs towards this stage and they're doing this, and I'm like, I that is one thing I do not want to live like of,
Okay,
like
so the reason I'm bringing this up is if if let's just say 30%. If
yeah,
30% of the audience is not there for the actual music. I think it's higher than that. I think it's probably 60% or more. But if let's just say that 30%. If you get a chance to open up for Parker, what are the odds you're going to get fans out of that show? You know, there's a guy that lives here in Houston or somewhere around here that gets to open up for Cody Johnson like 4 or 5 times a year in front of 35,000 people. But nobody knows who he is.
yeah,
And he can't sell any tickets. And so it's like, how do you back in the day, that's what your goal was, right? I mean, you're from the rock world. People used to buy onto tours. Remember those days? I
yeah,
think they still do. But if I could take $10,000 and go to Cody Jinks and be like, hey, for $10,000, I want to open up 5 shows for you. If I thought that would get me fans, I would do it in a heartbeat. I'd do it tomorrow.
hmm,
But I don't see those opening spots translating into fans anymore like they did when we were younger. You
yeah,
know, like I remember going to concerts. I remember in '95 I went to see Bush, and I got like pit tickets and so stoked. I was 15 or 16 or something, and I got down in the pit, and there was a band called No Doubt and another band called Goo Goo Dolls that were opening up for them. Now this was way before Goo Goo Dolls became like the Iris Goo Goo Dolls. It was,
yeah,
I think Name might have been their biggest song or so, or no, actually it was before Name. It was when Naked was their biggest song, and like I was like blown away by both of these openers. Like holy, there's another band called the Mayfield Four. I don't know if you know who that is. They're Miles Kennedy, the singer for Alter Bridge and
yeah.
Slash and those guys. It was his band before he did Alter Bridge.
Okay,
And I saw them open up for Creed, and I saw them open up for I think Fuel. I think it was somebody like that. The second time I went, I don't even know who was the headliner was because I went specifically to see Mayfield Four. But man, those guys took the stage, and to this day, they're like one of my favorite bands. About my favorite albums, like both their albums they put out. I listen to those albums in their entirety at least once a month.
yeah,
Um, it's like what do you have to do to build real fans? I don't care about the fake numbers, dude. I just don't care. You know, if you get so many TikTok followers, but you go look at the video and they watch 2 seconds of your
yeah.
video.
A,
You
a, hi-
know,
a high percentage of people that watch the whole video. For me, you know what I'm shooting for? 2%.
Yeah.
That's high. That is like I'm happy, and it'll be a minute. I'll try to keep it as close to a minute and 2%, and it'll have 60,000 views on some of them, and it's like less than just 2%. I'm like, oh, that's a good video, which is it blows my mind, and it could be somebody that's a big name, and I always found like it doesn't matter the name. A lot of if the people that are going to watch it are the ones that like are intrigued by the subject matter,
Yeah.
and there's certain questions that I know, like even if people don't know who you are, like if I do with it and like if I ask certain things, I know people, and people like to correct people. I found that they will.
Oh yeah, if you say something wrong.
You all the one thing I found is it doesn't matter who you are when I do the podcast. If I ask any talking of the start of Texas country and or red dirt, of like who brought it up, who made it popular, and if I ask somebody who do you think the king of country music is, we'll always get views and we'll always get that engagement because it's
Ooh, I want to play that game.
yeah, definitely. So
The king of
Jeff,
country music is not George Strait.
here we go. So Jeff Canada, who is the king of country?
Not George Strait. I mean, a guy wrote one song. Like, to me, if you're gonna be the king, you gotta you gotta write. You gotta be a writer. You gotta play guitar pretty good, um, and you gotta be a hell of a performer. And George Strait's none of those things. I mean, he has put out some great songs. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's like, dude. I mean, Pure Country. That soundtrack is one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. But you go to his show, dude, and it is a snore fest, dude. I mean, he's not moving. He's not. He doesn't even play his guitar. He's just holding it. Um, so I don't think George Strait. I mean, I think Dwight Yoakam's closer to the king of country music than George Strait should be. But I would go with like Willie Merle. Um, man, that's a tough one. I've never really thought about it. I've definitely thought about who's not the king of country, and I don't think George Strait is. Now, again, I'm not knocking it. I think he's
Yeah,
awesome. I think he's unbelievable. Um, but I'm not entertained when I go see him live at all. Like not even a little bit. I'm not entertained.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. That's a tough one, man. I need to think about that before I make that argument, I guess.
yeah. Well, I've asked a bunch of people, and a lot of it's either like some people just go primarily by the awards and the hits and whatnot.
Most people that aren't in the industry would, but when you're in the industry and you realize that those awards aren't shit, you lose that real quick.
Yeah,
Same thing with radio singles, or same with radio number ones. I mean, you lose that real quick once you really see how the industry works.
yeah, and a lot of people say like the king has to be alive, and like you
Mm.
said, like being an accomplished musician in guitar or something, and the performance side of it as well, like just the whole dimension of being an entertainer.
Like Garth Brooks, man. Just put Garth Brooks there. I mean, that guy plays the shit out of the guitar. He can write a song. I mean, he didn't write all his songs, but he can write a song. Is there? Can you think of any country singer that has ever put on a show like that guy can put on a show?
From somebody that never ever listened to country, I knew his name,
Right.
and I didn't realize I knew his music until someone said, "Oh, that's Garth Brooks." I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah,
okay."
I remember when I was a kid, he did a live show on like free on like because we didn't have cable. We had like we had the old TV where you got to
The
flip the
bunny ears.
buttons. And it was like NBC or ABC or CBS. It had to be. He did a live show at like some stadium or something, and he's like swinging off ropes, like like jumping off the stage and swinging on a rope 50, 60 feet out into the audience and coming back and like running all over the stage and uh and to me those are my favorite people. But you know, my favorite band of all time is Pearl Jam. Like hands down, Pearl Jam is my favorite band. There's no one that even comes close to touching that. Um and I saw Alice in Chains, uh Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden the same night
Oh
one
wow.
time. This was in like 92 or 93. And sonically, like listening, Soundgarden was by far the best band. Like they sounded, if you're not watching the stage and just listening the way they sounded the best. But Pearl Jam wiped the floor with both of those bands because of their stage show. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah, like
and there's guys like Travis Tritt that's the same. He was the same way. Neil McCoy, same way. Just like he didn't play guitar at all, but just like a solid entertainer. And so if uh, if you're not, I don't know. It's hard for me to say that. Like I would like Garth Brooks. Really, I mean, my roommate's right here. He says the king of country is Randy Rogers. So tells you
yeah.
tells you how crazy people can get with that opinion.
Yeah, and I see the same and hear the same recurring names, but that's the first anybody ever said Garth Brooks, but like he definitely transcends because I knew the name. Like you could play his music, I wouldn't know what it was, but his name it's a household name.
Well, he doesn't come up, and I'm going to tell you why. Because, and I remember this very, like I said, I was born in a super conservative, ultra redneck household where I mean, it was Merle, Willie. We watched Hee Haw. I mean, it was like, it was crazy. I mean, when I walked into the house, I remember when we got Prime Star Satellite for the first time, and I walked in the house. Every day I'd walk in the fucking house, and it was some black and white shoot 'em up on TV. Like it was, you know, the Rifleman or Bonanza or one of these
Awesome.
like westerns. That's so that just gives you a glimpse of the way I grew up. But I remember when Garth Brooks first came out, everybody was just, "That's not country music. That's not country music. That's terrible. That's not country music." And that's probably why he doesn't get brought up because I think he was so far ahead of his time when he came out. You know, now you hear that about Coe and you hear that about, you know, Morgan Wallen, you hear that about Jelly Roll and all those dudes. That Garth Brooks was put in that back in those days. And I
Yeah,
think that might be why he doesn't get brought up. But I don't even think it's close. Like Garth Brooks down here, he took the Toyota Center, which is the basketball stadium, and he did 8 days, 2 shows a day, 8 days straight, 2 shows a day. Every single one was sold out.
wow.
Who else who could do that? And that was like just like 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, that wasn't like a long, long time ago. Who else? Who do you think could do that? Morgan Wallen couldn't do that. Taylor Swift could probably do that. I mean, who else do you think could do that? George Strait couldn't do it.
Yeah, I don't know. And the one thing I always heard about Garth Brooks from doing the TikTok with his live show, the name that always comes up uh, with that is Chris Ledoux.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love Crystal Dew. Man, I was a huge Crystal Dew fan when he first came out.
Yeah, I always tell people like I remember like one of the first songs I heard of his. It had like an Iron Maiden type gallop, and I was like, dude, like had I heard this back then, I said I probably would have been
You're
jumped.
talking about 8 Second Ride.
Yeah, I was like, I love that
Yeah,
stuff, and I'm like,
me too, man.
yeah, and then like I say, like with like Shane Smith and the Saints is like my country Pink Floyd, and
Good
Chris
one.
Le, Chris Ledoux has that type too, where it's like it's theatrical while you're
Yeah,
listening to it. There's a lot of stuff going on, and then he had like great story like where he'd do like the voiceover like an old like serial like
it's very
radio thing.
nuts. It's nuts that he put out that record with that on there because that record had that song. It had Cadillac Ranch was a little bit of a rockin' song. It had Little Long Haired Cowboy where he's talking about that's what the song is about. It's about y'all want me to be this country guy, but there's like a rock and roller in my soul. But the guy was also like a legit, he's the only person ever. He's in the Country Music Hall of Fame and the Rodeo Hall of Fame. He was like a legit championship bronc rider. Um, and he was like a country boy to the T. So it was very cool to see him put out that record because that wasn't his brand up until that point. And I don't remember when he died because on that same record was that the duet he did with Garth Brooks.
Oh,
There's a duet called "What You Gonna Do with a Cowboy," and it's on that same album.
I don't know if I ever heard that. Huh. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's called "What You Gonna Do with a Cowboy." It's Garth Brooks and Crystal Dew, and it was on the Crystal Dew record. I don't think Garth Brooks ever put it on any of his records.
Oh.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember. But
Yeah.
that Rope in the Wind record for uh, you know 10 Pearl Jam 10 Pearl Jam 10 changed my whole life when I heard that for the first time. I don't think that's their best record. I think that Verse is a better record than 10. I know that's not cool to say, but and Temple the Dog was better than both those in my opinion. But 10 changed my whole life. It was like, hang on a second. So you can have a rock and roller who's not wearing makeup but still has guitar solos. Because like Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, and those guys, they didn't have solos. Nirvana, no solos. I mean, they might have some little string bend thing or something, but there was like no. You Pearl Jam, you had like legit, and I was a huge like Poison fan too. Like I
So
was
was I.
Poison, Def Leppard, all that stuff, and so. But I was like, hang on, I cannot watch dudes in makeup and stretchy pants. I can watch these guys that are showing up in there, but they're still like doing like Mike McCready's solos are just insane, dude. And so, but "Rope in the Wind" by Garth Brooks might be my second most influential album I've ever heard in my entire life, and that was his second record. And maybe that's the way I feel that. Maybe that's why I feel that way about him. Maybe being the king of country music. I don't know.
Yeah. It's
It's a good argument.
it's what shapes you, and it's crazy, dude. I when I was younger, I was dating an older girl that loved Pearl Jam. It was Pearl Jam, Pearl Jam, Pearl Jam, Pearl Jam. And like when you're younger and you're dating somebody older, you're like, oh, this is cool, blah blah blah. And like we broke up, and like I couldn't listen to Pearl Jam. I've only heard what's on the radio, Pearl Jam. And then recently, I was listening to like Cody Canada put out a post. He's like, Pearl Jam is amazing. And like I've heard Pearl Jam songs. I'm like, what is this? Like a Jimi Hendrix? Because like Mike McCready, he's a fantastic guitar player. I don't. It's just
Him and Stone Gossard both are unbelievable guitar players.
yeah,
Both of
and
them.
I love their tone. And it's just like, man, I avoided them because for so long I'd always think of like, man, I like ruined this relationship because like that's when I stopped, doing uh, Jack Daniels, and like when I would think about it, I was like, man, I really ruined and really embarrassing. And like they kind of got tacked along that, but like I've recently like on like the reaction videos, there's some Pearl Jam songs that I've never heard because I started going down and I'm like, dude, man, this stuff's good. And I think I also kind of avoided him because Adam Sandler on SNL, you know what I mean? Like, and it's
Yeah.
just like these guys are. And then when you see him live, like Eddie Vedder is like, if he falls off of this structure, he's either going to be mangled
Yeah.
or he's not getting up. And like, dude, and he falls all over everything. It was like rock and roll, but like what you said, like back in the time where people were like Aquanet and teasing their hair, and
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Because
man,
it's because to them it's all about the show. It's about this show right now. These people that paid this money came to that to me is the mentality that's kind of been lost in the music industry. It's about the next thing. It's about what's coming next. It's about well, I'll do this show, but only for this. Blah 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 blah. I gotta stay safe. I can't do this. I can't do that. But man, when you take guys like the Foo Fighters or Pearl Jam or on the countryside, Wetzel, Limp Bizkit, it's like It's about right now. If I die right now, I'm happy. So I'm going to give these people everything I can possibly give them. And to me, that is what I look for when I go out to see a show. You know, and maybe not as like Hoosier Brothers. We were talking about them earlier.
Yeah, they're
Like, I don't
great.
know if you've ever seen those guys live. They put on a phenomenal show, man. It is unbelievable. William Carr Green puts on a phenomenal show. I mean, you've seen him live.
Yeah,
Um, but on some of these festivals, man, like I'll watch the first song because I try to watch everybody that plays on the festivals. I'll watch the first song and then I get bored and I'm like, I'll go to the merch booth and hang out with people, or I'll go to the green room or whatever. Because I don't want to just see four dudes on stage stand there and play songs.
yeah,
You know what I mean? That's not why I'm there. If I wanted that, I would just put on the record. And it's not because I'm not a fan of your music. I could definitely be like, Chris Stapleton's a prime example of that. Like, I'm a huge Chris Stapleton fan, man. I can listen to that guy's voice all day long. But man, like the two times I've seen him live, it was like, I don't want to be here.
yeah. Like he doesn't leave like the box.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't say anything to the crowd. Everything sounds exact like. And that's another beautiful thing about like Foo Fighters and Pearl Jam. They don't play to click tracks.
Yeah,
You know, that's cool. That's what's cool about Shane Smith. They don't do that shit. They go out there and they put on a show.
yeah,
It's a show. And they're going to play to the energy of the room. And they're going to play the energy of the crowd and the energy of the stage. They're not going to have some in the back of their head trying to keep them on time. Now, if you're a honky tonk band, I talk about this quite often on my podcast, actually. But if you're like a honky tonk band and you're playing in like honky tonks where people are two stepping and stuff, I get it. I get it, man. You because you want to be on point. You don't want to play things that are crazy off because people are dancing to those songs. They're,
yeah,
you know. Um, but if you're playing a concert, like a festival or like an arena or something that's like people aren't dancing or that, dude, just let loose and play a show, man. And I know that you can't. I know that not everybody can do that. You have to have the right players to do that. And one of the worst shows, so I was anti click, not doing it, not doing it, not doing it. And then I hired a drummer one time and he's like, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna take you to the next level. And at this point I was kind of desperate to get the next thing going on. So I was like, all right, let's do this. And so he comes in and goes, we have to play to click. All the big guys are to click, and we're gonna eventually get you a light show that's programmed to the click and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. And we opened up for Three Doors Down out in a not open them up, not open up. We played with Three Doors Down out in Mardi Gras in Galveston. And dude, it was the worst show I ever played in my life. It was
huh.
so bad. I mean, I'm like trying to get it and I'm like trying to get the crowd into it and I'm being like yanked back by this. I
Yeah,
just felt like we were playing tug of war with each other, man. And I know that some people say if you do it long enough, you'll get to the point where you don't hear it. I don't want to do it long enough to where I don't get to the point to hear it. I want to go out and I want to lay it all out on the line and I want to put the best show I can possibly put in front. You never see me mail it in, dude. You never
yeah,
ever gonna come to one of my shows and be like, man, he's just not feeling it or he's mailing it in. Because I don't have that gear. It's like we're going.
yeah.
We're gonna do everything we gotta do to make everyone in this room remember me and more importantly have a good time. And you know, if you're
Yeah,
going to talk shit about me, it's going to be because I said something I shouldn't have said on stage or because I did something I shouldn't have done on stage. Not, you're never going to talk shit about me. Oh man, that Jeff Cannon show was boring.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Dude, I get it. And like and without a click, sometimes like if you're a seasoned enough musician, you know when like one of your guys is having the night of his life, and you play like you try to reach whatever level he's at, or if he's playing a little faster or getting into his feels and playing a little bit slower, you hook on with him. Or if
Yeah.
your drummer is feeling it and playing too fast, you know, it's just. But like you said, like when you have that experience, like yeah, you know, and it's almost like okay, we're done, no encore, bye. But like when you're actually like in the moment, and like sometimes like you're nervous, and that transcends into you know you play a little bit too fast. But hey, man, if the crowd's into it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They really gonna care that you know you rushed a couple of your songs. But that's also the cool thing about live music is like you can be like, hey man, I like this band live, but man, their records, You know, because I have a lot of bands like that where like,
That's the
yeah,
way I feel about my stuff. I feel that way. I'm not even kidding. Like I listen to my live records and I'm like, this is. I mean, it doesn't suck. I'm not saying it's
yeah, I know,
bad, but like it doesn't translate what I know I can do on stage.
yeah,
And I put out a live album. I did a live album at Dosey Do, and now it was an acoustic band. Like we played 5-part harmonies, upright bass, like a cajon and a snare kind of situation. But man, it's like if you listen to the live versions on that and then go back and listen, they're way better on the live album.
yeah,
Way better. Not even it's not even close. And that's my biggest problem is trying to figure out how to capture that in
yeah.
into a single.
There's some huge bands that still haven't captured that.
Yeah. Oh,
It,
I know. One of my really good friends is the lead singer, or not lead singer, but the bass player for one of them. And I try to support, man. I do. I try to support, but I go see him live, and I'm like, this is just not good,
yeah, I do.
you know. And I'm
I
talking
know.
about a big band, like big, and it's just like this is terrible.
Yeah, dude, it makes a huge difference. Like I've, when the first time I was down in Texas, Stained was getting ready to take the stage, and I was with somebody else that my age, and he goes, "What do you think's going to happen?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't know." And they came out, and his guitar player was driving nails into the stage, and I was like, "Oh yeah, man!" And it was awesome. And like, and you go back to the album, and you're like, "Man, I would do anything to be back in that field." Watching them live,
Yeah.
just to it was incredible because I'd never seen him live, and I was, like all these. I got to see Def Leppard a couple years ago, and it's what I mean. Like I didn't get to see like prime '80s, '90s Def Leppard, but they
I
were
saw them in the
phenomenal.
'90s.
Oh, dude, I love those guys. I mean, I still do. They were incredible, but like the other, it was Motley Crue, and I was like, that's not Motley Crue, but
Yeah.
Poison was great. CC DeVille is one of my favorite guitar players.
Yeah, I agree. Tone, God,
Oh
Tone
my
for days,
god,
dude.
that made me want
Man,
to play guitar. That
yeah, dude,
Ball and Chain.
ain't nothing but a good time. That intro for
Ain't
Ain't Nothing But a Good Time. I chase that fucking tone every single song I write, dude.
yeah,
I'm not even kidding. I want to write a song that I can have that type of an intro, and it's not hard. It's not like it's a complicated song, but man, it's just like holy shit.
he did.
It's like Money for Nothing for Dire Straits. It's just like,
Yeah,
like
he never gets any respect. And I don't understand why because like that it's incredible. It's like at the edge of like sparkle and distortion, like right down the middle. It's like crystal clear. It's like you can see through it, and
yeah.
and it's man, like Ride the Wind. Oh, that riff and like that is what got me into like pinch arms and making the guitar sound like that. And dude, he had like an Eddie Van Halen moment where he really just stood out front and just said, "Hey, this is what I can do." And I was just like, this made the ticket price worth it. Just seeing him like really get at it, and yeah, like
Yeah, see, I've never I'm one of those guys that hates Van Halen, dude. Like I'm
I
one of those
really,
guys that I can't and it's but I'm just not a huge fan of like instrumental type stuff. You
I,
know what I mean? I mean, I definitely
yeah,
like some of their more popular songs. I just like I can't get into the Eddie Van Halen, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, um, stuff. But really, I mean, I never really got into Hendrix either, and I know that's bad. But I'm not a real guitar player, so it's not sacrilege for me to say that. I'm just a
yeah,
rhythm guitar player, so I'm more of a John Mayer fan than I am any of those guys. Um, but I get it. I understand why it did what it did. I mean, most time when I say I'm not a Van Halen fan, it's like sad. I mean, people want to murder me. Uh, but I've just never been that kind of guy. Now, do I want like some killer solos in my stuff? Do I want some really cool music stuff in my? I definitely do. I just never got into guitar on that level
hmm
where it just looks like Lincoln to me. It
yeah,
looks like you know, I'm the kind of guy that after about 4 bars, I want to like punch a guitar player in their face. Like it's time to shut up. Like
Yeah.
get back over here. Let's get back to the lyrics. Because like you said earlier, I'm a lyrics guy, man. I've always been a lyrics guy. In fact, I write 95% of my songs. Jeez, these dogs are so loud. Uh, I write 90% of my songs um, in total silence, like complete and total, just no guitar, just the lyrics. I got a melody in my head. I got a time signature in my head, and and sorry, that's so distracting. And and I write the song that way. So to me, it's always about the lyrics first.
Yeah.
It always has been. It always will be. I'm gonna go in here. But that's just the way. That's just the way I do it. You know.
Yeah, and that's definitely like I coming from the other side, like I've hardly ever really listened to lyrics until I started listening and doing like the Texas country and the red dirt and realizing like, there's a whole entire like art going on that I've been totally kind of like oblivious to, which is weird because like I could hum you all the guitar parts and the guitar solos, but now it's like taught me to go back and like because I did a podcast with Dylan Weldon, and he brought up a good point that I never really thought of. He said people listen to music differently because he grew up listening to country music, and he was always like, I hear the lyrics first, and he goes, I watch you. You always talk about the beat and like from the ground up to the beat to the bass to the guitars and the acoustics and the steel and everything, and then like before I know it, I'm like, man, I missed all the words. Like I made a huge mistake with like a couple songs where it's a super sad song, and like yeah, just you really re-listen to it, and you're like, oh wow. So like normally I get the lyrics after like a second listening, but yeah, I get that. Like if you are a songwriter, I totally get where that doesn't that wouldn't be appealing. Like it it didn't like blow my mind. I was talking to Jared Morris, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't really like guitar solos." I'm like, "Oh my god, man!"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay," and he explained it, and I was like, "Oh, I get it," because I was telling him, I was like, "What I love to see is like when I go see like a country band, and the lead singer has an electric guitar, that I get excited because it's like, do we have somebody here that's going to sing and then jam, because that to me is like that's what I would love to be. If I could sing, I always tell people, I was like, if I could sing, I'd be a millionaire. Like I would do like I would. There's a kid who just uh Trey from Faye. He was
Oh yeah.
singing at his mattress job. You know what I mean? And next thing you know, you turn on the TV, he's on America's Got Talent. I'm like, dude, I would sing him. I would sing everywhere. I would sing narrating my life on social media, and just like
Yeah.
just to get out there, and if I didn't have a band, but
Yeah, I mean, if you got one of those voices, the people like Trey, like he just has one of those voices that's just so good. Like I don't
yeah,
have that. I don't have that voice. Like I don't have a voice that I'm just gonna go around singing a cappella and it's gonna sound good. Like I have a rough, it's gravelly. Um, I mean, I have a Eddie like a '90s alternative voice. Is the way I. That's just It's just the way I look at it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I'm just not that type of singer that sounds good like that. Like one of the things that people always say, and it's so annoying, is like you should go on The Voice, and I'm like, dude, I am not. I don't have that type of voice to go on The Voice. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like I don't have that kind of clarity. Man, this room sucks too. Sorry, I don't have that clarity. They're done eating. I don't have that clarity in my voice, or that the vibrato I have is very unnatural. It's very I don't know, it's more like that Toby Keith vibrato, just not quite as annoying. Not that Toby Keith's annoying. He has put out great records. Just sometimes he sings with that voice and you're like, golly. It's more of that like real fast vibrato crap. And so But really, that's something I've just found in like the last few years by doing it so much. Yeah, but guys like Trey, Bubba Wesley from down here, he's another one that has just one of those voices that's it's like it's just there's something about it that I just love, dude. It's not that typical country voice. It's, they don't sound like they don't have that typical country voice. They don't have that typical George Strait, Randall King voice. It's more of a rock and roll voice, but does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Trey's got a killer voice, dude. That dude is sick.
Yeah.
That dude is sick.
I
Yeah, he just followed me on Instagram or on TikTok, and I followed him back. Seems like a cool dude. I've never met him before.
yeah, I've never met him. It's been cool to watch, like when he was like when he got his guitar and he was like learning how to play. I'm like, there you go, because it you never have to be reliant on having another guy behind you playing.
Yeah,
In a lot of places, it's just you on a stool. So and like a voice like that, you're going to be sitting in it, and people are going to be like, yeah, who are you, and
yeah,
where can I see you?
yeah. See,
Every
that's so you have to work with what you have, right? Like
yeah,
you have to work with what you're given, and I can't change my voice. My voice is my voice, and I can't change my look. I mean, I can change my looks a little bit, but I don't. I'm not like this. I don't look like Eddie Vedder. I'm not like this good-looking Gavin Rosdale-looking guy. You know what I mean? Um, so I always was like, I'm gonna win with personality. That's what I'm gonna win with.
yeah,
Like I know that my voice has gotten a lot better. I finally found my voice, and now I go toe to toe with anybody as far as singing goes. I can't hit all those crazy notes and do all those runs and all that crazy stuff, but I'm always on key. I'm like, if you hear me live, you're never going to hear me hit a wrong note vocally. You know what I mean? You will on guitar, but not vocally. I'm kind of have that like machine of an ear as far as like my tone. And so it may not be the best tone, but it's in key, right? It's the notes are right. And but I knew from a very early age that if I was going to be because I knew from the very beginning I wanted to be on a stage of some sort, whether it was acting, uh, guitar, dancing. I knew that there was something. I mean, I was into Michael Jackson big time back when I was a kid. Um, but I knew that I was going to do it with personality. And so that's what I focused everything on. I mean, I focused 100% of my time and effort on my stage show, on my jokes, on being able to hold a conversation with somebody and like getting off stage and talking to everybody and never getting tired. I'm never off. Like that's the one thing that my girlfriend says about me. She's like, "You're on all the time. Like you're always on, no matter where we're at, what we're doing. You're always on." And I did that. That was intentional, because I knew that I was never going to win a singing contest, and I knew I was never going to win a battle or a guitar contest. But I guarantee you, I can win a battle of the bands. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because it's about the total package. It's not just about being able to do one of those two things great. Like I said about Chris Stapleton earlier, you can have the best voice on the planet, and if you're putting people to sleep, what's the point? You know what I mean?
yeah,
I'm not saying there's no point because that dude is just that dude's sick.
yeah,
Probably the best voice that I've heard in the last probably 20 years.
yeah. He's definitely saving the genre of just yeah. I I can't remember what award show. It's amazing how like he just like walks up, like very like docile, and he just starts playing the guitar a little bit, and then he just starts singing. It's like,
Yeah,
oh
and
my
it's just like butter.
god,
Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah,
And if you go back and listen to some of his older stuff, especially he was in a rock band called Brother
Johnson
Brother Johnson or Johnson
Johnson
Brother
Brothers, yeah,
John
Johnson, yeah,
something
something,
like that.
yeah,
You go listen to that stuff, and it's like, oh man, this is so good. Johnson Brothers, that's who it is. Dude, so good, man, so good. But he's very meek and like very like whenever we went and saw him last time, I think he was 5 songs in before he even said anything to the audience.
yeah,
And me, I'm talking to the audience before I hear him sing a word. It's like I come out playing, what's going? You know what I mean? We're like ready to rock and roll. But I'm kind of known in the cover world here in town. I'm kind of known for the guy that changes the lyrics and like people tell me all the time, man, like Santa Rita came on the other day on the radio, and I couldn't even sing it right because I'm singing your lyrics. And so that I kind of built this whole thing about that. And that's just what I do. That's why I did the whole JeffCanadaSucks.com, which was really good for a while. I'm gonna back off of that in 2025. I was hanging out with Scott Brown from Scooter Brown Band. I don't know if you know who that is or not, but he was in a band called the War Hippies. Have you heard of those guys?
Yeah.
Okay, well they're done.
Uh,
They're done. There's some bad problems, but Scott's a good friend of mine, and he was the singer. And he was like, "Dude, you gotta drop that, man." It's like I get what you're trying to do with it, and I get, and it's got you a lot of people, but man, you're just putting bad shit out in the universe. It's like, don't, you need to have Jeff Canada's badass or Jeff Canada whatever, you know. And so I'm gonna try to leave in 2025. My goal is to kind of like leave some of that self-deprecating out a little bit, not lose who I am, but just kind of,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, like a positive rebrand ish.
Yeah, everything I'm doing right now is about rebranding. Like I'm not posting on social media near the way I was. I mean, 6 months ago, dude, I was posting every 3 hours on every platform,
Wow.
24/7. 24/7, there was something being posted on every platform.
And that's a lot. That's
Yeah, it'd take me probably 8 or 9 hours on a Monday to schedule everything out for the whole week.
oh wow. I have to tell you, they have an AI site that does it for you, which
Yeah,
I've found to be incredible with just saving time.
yeah.
As much as AI scares me, but
See,
if
it
it can
doesn't
help,
scare me at all. Like that's something that gets brought up quite a bit in the music industry. And it doesn't scare me at all. And this is why it doesn't scare me. People, there's always going to be some people that prefer DJs over live music,
yeah,
right? That's always going to be the case. And so AI to me is just another form of DJ, right? It's just another form of artificial music. And I'm not saying that like DJs are playing real music, but it's like, yeah, I never understood the stadiums full of people out dancing to a live DJ. You know what I'm like Marshmello or those guys or
yeah. Like my buddy went to Red Rocks and it was a DJ. I was like,
yeah.
what? You need to
Yeah,
go
I never
see?
understood that to
Yeah,
me. And so it's the same with AI. I know you're gonna have a lot of people that kind of listen to that stuff and it's kind of fun to plug in some words into a song and make some
yeah.
one of the radio stations I was on recently, they did an AI song about me before I got there and they played it for me and it was hilarious, right? And so it's just another tool. And as far as writing goes, and I'll be completely honest, I'm like a lyricist, right? Like I'm a writer. I'm a writer first. And I want to write the best words I can write to portray what I'm trying to get across. And back in the day, what I had to do is I had to pick out a thesaurus, right? And you would
Mm-hmm.
dig the thesaurus or you would whatever. But and now if I want to say, man, I in this line, like I already wrote the line, I already know what I want to say, but I don't like that one word. And I can plug into AI, hey, give me another word for that word. And it'll pop up and have all the words. And I can be like, no, 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 yes, 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 no, 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 no. And then I pick it in, see if it works. I mean, why is that a bad thing? I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I
Yeah,
think it's a, now if you're sitting there saying, hey, AI, write me a verse about putting on my boots, you know, but you know who's going to do that? You know who's going to do that? It's going to be the people that are not real and they're not authentic anyway.
yeah,
And they're frauds and they're fakes. They're the ones that pay for the bots. They're the ones that pay for, they're just fake people. And in country music, crowds know the difference. They know who's real and who's not.
yeah,
I mean, all this Jelly Roll success, I think, is because he's still even though he's putting out pop country, like he's still being like real and authentic and vulnerable on his interviews and even with his lyrics. If you listen to the lyrics, yeah, it's got some stupid 808 behind it, but his lyrics are legit,
yeah,
as opposed to somebody like Morgan Wallen. Like that guy puts out pop bro country and there nothing about him is real. Like nothing about that dude is real. He's not authentic. He's a super douche, man. And like and that's what comes across to me when I watch him. I mean, if I watch him in an interview or anything, he I know he can write songs because I know he wrote some songs for Stapleton. I know he's a good writer, but the stuff he puts out is there's just no depth to it. There's no
Yeah.
like my girlfriend and I, we were like, we're gonna get. He put out that dual record, the dual, and we're like, we're gonna listen to this thing. I'm gonna do it with an open mind. I want to listen to this thing with an open heart, and maybe I'll become a Morgan Wallen fan. But here's the deal: we're gonna push next every time he says the word sober, every time he says the word drunk. There was like 4 words we were gonna skip. We listened to all 36 songs in like 5 minutes because it's just the same stuff regurgitated over and over and over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've been going for 2 hours, homie. I told you I can talk all
Yeah.
day.
I'm like, it, I don't know how this is the text messages are getting through my do not disturb. I'm like, but but
Yeah,
yeah,
dude, I can talk all day. Sorry.
yeah. Oh, that's cool. I like talking to you. But yeah, the one that like and like I generally think generally I always mispronounce it, that Jelly Roll is a good dude. Like his
Yes.
acceptance speech, man, that had me fired up. And I was like, you know what? It ain't too late, dude. And it, I felt it. You know what I mean? And like when I always say like, like I compare, and it's just because his name's big, and like when you say like Morgan Wallen, people know like that. A lot of people have the opinion you have, and but I don't really know anything about him. But I know, yeah, man, watching that was like the one speech where I was like, and like you hear all the stories and like the people like he messages people, says, hey man, anytime you're in Nashville, hit me up. And people say like he shows up, and
Yeah.
that's cool. And
Yeah. He
you
does
know
everywhere.
yeah,
And
I'd
he'll
heard,
talk to anybody. He was in Houston not too long ago, and I had some friends of mine that were just hanging out somewhere, and it was like a gas station or somewhere. I can't remember exactly what it was. And they ran into him, and he talked to him for like 20, 30 minutes.
yeah, and that's a long amount of time
But
for someone that probably
but the thing is like define success, right? Because I
yeah
mean, like take Beyonce for example. She put out this Country Carter record. I listened to it. It doesn't suck. I mean, it's good for what it is. I mean, it's pop. It's pop music trying to be country, right?
yeah
And she wasn't nominated for a single CMA. And that's because the people in CMAs care about country music. That's what they're about. And in Jelly Roll won some CMAs, and that's because it's about being real and about being authentic. Jelly Roll is from Nashville. He's not like I'm just gonna change genres. He's always been into country music. His whole life he's been into country music. He
yeah
just he spent some time in jail and got into hip hop. It just is what it is. He was from a very, very poor town, a poor area out there, and it just is what it is. But like Beyonce's never done anything country. She's from Houston, Texas. She has never ever ever done anything to warrant what she's got going on. And she did it because she saw the success of Jelly Roll, and she did it because she's trying to stay relevant.
yeah
And she didn't get nominated for a single CMA, but she's nominated for every single country category at the Grammys.
yeah
And that just goes to show you, like, it just depends on what your success is. That's why I always tell people, for us smaller bands, for us little bitty guys, when they start bringing those big guys in as comparison, I'm like, you can't bring those guys in, man. You got to find an artist that is like 5 or 6 steps ahead of you. That's who you got to look at. What are they doing?
yeah
Because anybody that's on mainstream radio or winning Grammy awards, they're not even in your same they're not in your do you know what I mean? They're not
yeah
even in the same atmosphere as we are. And so one of those prime examples is I'll go see somebody play, and like a cover guy on acoustic guitar, and he's just up there playing like Alice in Chains songs and Nirvana songs, and and then they ask me like, oh, what do you think, dude? How'd I do? And I'm like, I mean, you were good. Sounded great. Sounded cool. But I'm not gonna sit there and be like you did great because you're up there playing this drony ass music and you're not putting on a show. Um, and then they'll be like, "Well, man, I went and saw Chris Cornell at House of Blues, and he sat up there and played these songs acoustic, and the crowd went crazy." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you're not Chris Cornell, dude.
Yeah.
Like you haven't built. If you're playing shows where you're selling tickets and everybody's there to see you, you could do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. These people
Do whatever you
idolize him.
want. Yeah, if you want to come out there and play an acoustic ballad, do it. Like you could do whatever you want. I mean, when I play like a ticketed event here in town and I'll sell a few hundred tickets, I do what I want at those shows. I'm not, but if I'm going out and I'm playing a festival in front of people that don't know who I am, I'm not going to do that same thing because that same thing is not going to get any of those people to remember me.
Yeah.
You could do different things with your fans than you can trying to make fans.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got to that point, but I'm glad I made it.
Yeah. It's a great point. Because it's true. And it's,
Yeah, so I just try not to even look at those guys. Like I try not to. I mean, I'll talk about like Parker McCollum sometimes because he's from right down the street. I know his brother. I know his mom.
Mhm.
I've never met him, but I know them. Um, but I try not to. I try not to even compare myself to like Whiskey Myers or Shane Smith because it's just they're just on a different realm than me.
Yeah.
I'd rather compare myself to somebody like Cody Hibbard or Shane Smith and no, not Shane Smith and the Saints. Randall King, somebody like that, somebody that's definitely further along in their career than I am, but not to that point where they can do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And like, what's cool is like people in Texas, like when I go to Texas or I talk to people from Texas and they say, man, I remember when I got to see Shane Smith and the Saints at these small clubs. And I'm like, I'm getting that right now. I said they're coming up here and they're
Yeah,
playing like the local spots. And I'm
yeah,
like, I'm I'm probably a decade behind you, but like I'm getting experience like that too. But when I go to Texas, like they're playing to
yeah.
thousands
You're
and
not.
thousands of people.
Yeah, you're not a decade behind. I mean, they just hit their pop, dude. I opened up for them. I was direct support for them in 2021, and there was probably maybe 1,100 people there at this venue. And then I opened up like maybe 6 months later at another venue, and there was less than 300 people there.
Wow.
And then I opened up for them for St. Patty's Day in 2023, and there was like 2,000 people there. But I'm not gonna lie, a lot of those people were there for me because it was right here in my backyard. And Shane even said something like that, or something around those lines, because like 3 songs into their set, like 30% of the audience left.
Oh wow.
And he was like, "Man, you brought them tonight." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, we did," and they were one of the best shows I've ever played in my life, dude. We murdered it that night.
Yeah.
It was that's one of those nights where you just like, I've had 8 or 10 times in the last 3 or 4 years where you just play a show and you just like, yeah, it fills your cup all the way to the top. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I can deal with another 3 months of just of either crappy or okay shows because that just happened. I did it in front of Randy Rogers. We played in front of 7,000 people in front of Randy Rogers, and I had them just like in the, oh man, just like ah, you know. And man, when you have those nights, it's crazy. But Shane Smith and the Saints are not that far into doing that. I mean, neither is Whiskey Myers. I mean, Whiskey Myers in 2020, 2021, they weren't selling out thousands and thousands of places. I mean, I know in 2020, my buddy Charlie Diggs put on a show here in town that they brought 15,000 people out, but that was coming right out of COVID and everybody was so ready to get out of the house. Um, so their success, Whiskey Myers' success and Shane Smith's success is pretty recent, even down here in Texas. Now,
Yeah.
Cody Johnson's a different story.
Yeah.
Cody Johnson's been selling out rooms down here since like 16, 17. And I don't know if you know the whole story about him or not, but Old Dominion was supposed to play the rodeo and they got sick. And so Cody Johnson filled into a sold out crowd at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo in front of, 70,000 people or 60,000 people, whatever it is.
Wow.
I don't know how many, maybe 40. I don't that I'm pulling that number out of my butt. It's the football stadium.
Yeah, still a lot.
Um, and it was just like, but his fiddle player is a friend of mine, and he was like, yeah, but what nobody knows is like the day after that we played to like for like 50 people.
That's crazy.
So how crazy is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
this industry though, man. Peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
Peaks and valleys, dude. Yeah. And that's something that people outside of the industry don't understand either. I mean, that night that I played in front of Randy Rogers, 7,000 people, the very next day I played in front of a bar that had 5 people and everybody was watching the Astros game. Like it was so bad that I was making jokes because they were clapping in the middle of my song. And
Oh.
I'd be like, hey, y'all have to wait to the end of the song to clap, like joking around,
Yeah.
knowing that they're clapping for the Astros game. They're not clapping. You know what I mean? Uh,
That is a great chorus. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. And it's just like, man, that's an example of like of being way up here and then the next day being way down here. And so those swings of emotion, man,
Yeah.
they can be brutal for you. I think that's why so many people in this industry deal with alcoholism and drug abuse and
Absolutely.
suicide. I think that's why people end it
Yeah.
is because they're just tired of that up and down. You got to be a very, very secure, confident person
Mm-hmm.
to be in the music industry.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
You have to be because it's no, 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 and then you get a yes, and somebody fucks you over. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
you finally get a yes, and you're like, okay, cool, and then there's something messed up about it. Like
Yeah.
they're gonna pay you less than what they said they were gonna
Yeah.
pay, or
Oh, we
there's
double
this that.
booked.
Like there's so very few moments, especially getting started, where it's like a win. So you have to be almost delusional up front at the beginning to, and then once you get past that, and I don't know how I've been doing it for 18 years. I don't know how I did it, and I'm just not like a total just basket case,
Yeah.
like an emotional, because it's just up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, and you got to find those small victories when you can, and hopefully surround yourself by, luckily I'm the kind of person that finds a lot of light in other people's success,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
if it's like I see one of my friends do something really awesome, I feel like it's a win for all of us.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like when Shane Smith, when he first popped up on that Yellowstone thing, it was like that was such a win for all of us, dude.
Yeah.
And that's the way. Now, some people don't look at it that way. Some people are, jealous assholes. But for me, I'm like, dude, that's like a win. And so I do these things on social media called artist spotlights, and I try to do them all the time. I slowed way down, but and I'll just take an artist and do just like a spotlight on them. And it has nothing to do with me. I won't talk about myself at all. It's just about, hey, check this song out, check this person out, check this out, what they're doing, And I find so much joy in building up others and seeing other people succeed. It's just one of my favorite things. It's legit, like being on stage, talking shit, propping up other people. Like those are my three things that they just put a smile on my face, man. They really, really, really do. And like I don't know if you know who Peyton Howie is. Have you heard Peyton Howie?
It's just, oh, yeah. You have the song Pink Whitney?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Peyton, I started like mentoring her, if you will. Not really, but kind of when she was 19. And like on my live record, she did a duet with me on my song Whiskey Tears. And and she just got signed to WME, and I opened up for her recently, and a lot of people are like, well, how does it feel opening up for Peyton Howie? And I'm like, that's awesome. Like
Yeah.
this is great. Like she's gonna go all the way, dude. She's like on tour. She's like opening for Ashley McBride and stuff right now. She's gonna be a superstar, dude.
Yeah.
She's a total package. She's got the work ethic. She knows what she wants. She's going after it. She's writing. She writes her songs. She records them the way she wants to. Uh, she's phenomenal, dude. She really is phenomenal. So I wish her all the best of luck. And I have another girl, Peyton Riley, who I started mentoring her when she was 13. And she's 16 now. And she went on American Idol this last year and she didn't get picked, but she had a song called Fireflies. And and they aired it on national television
Oh, wow.
with her singing it. And it's like, and so she's starting to get this little pop. And what's funny is my last, well, on my album release party at Dosey Do, I think it was my album release party. I can't remember. It was Dosey Do's like a listening room here in town, and I usually sell around 400 tickets, 300 or 400 tickets when I play there, and she was 14 at the 14 or 15 at the time. And there's like, what's really cool, there's like 35 musicians at this show, which is such a big compliment for me, to get the fact that that other musicians are going to take time off from them out playing, losing money to come spend money to come see me play my songs. It's such a huge compliment. But halfway through my set, I just stopped, and she had no idea I was going to do this. I just stopped and said, man, there's a very, very special young lady in this audience tonight, and I want to bring her up on stage and let her play a song. And she got up on that stage, she took my guitar, and she played that Fireflies song. She had just written it the week before, like literally just written it the week before. She had everyone in that room in tears, just like me. I had goosebumps. You know what I mean? And then we got back on stage and we finished the show. And to this day, that moment right there is like the top 5 experience of my life. Just giving her that platform. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just, it was beautiful. And then to see her go do that same song on national television and then them air it on national television, it was just like, it's so rad, man. It's so cool to see those. So that's what's really cool about these younger artists, is watching them grow, because a lot of them, there's enough of us out here now that aren't scared to share our story, that hopefully keeps them from falling in the pitfalls.
Yeah.
And people get on to me quite often, like, you're too negative on social media. You're too negative. You're too negative. You're too negative. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm just the right amount of negative. I'm pulling the curtain back. I'm letting people see what the industry is really like, because I don't want these younger artists to have to deal with the same pitfalls that I had to go through. If I can keep one of these younger artists from making the same $10,000 mistake I made, that's a win, man.
Yeah.
That's a total win. Or if I can keep one of them from getting screwed over by some manager or some booker or promoter or venue. Like, I'm the guy that one of my friends will get stiffed at a venue, not even me, and I'm the one that calls that venue out. Like, that's just the kind of guy I am, because
Yeah.
I don't want those other people. Now, has that hurt me in my career? Probably. I know that at one point I was really, really going out for Texas radio, like going after them, after their throats, because the amount of money that we have to spend just to get our songs played on some B-level internet radio station. You got to spend $5,000 to make that happen, and it doesn't equal anything. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't. You get no return from that, and you have to do it every 20 weeks. If you want to be relevant in the Texas radio scene.
Yeah. It's
And
crazy.
so I'm just trying to keep people from being, now if you listen to me and you still want to do it, then go do it. I'm not going to knock you for that. I don't knock anybody who does it. I just want people to know what they're getting into. And I want that for the whole thing.
Yeah.
I just heard this thing about, I haven't said anything about it publicly yet. I don't even know if it's real. I need to do some research, but like this Whiskey Riff thing buying up this Western grunge. Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
Like, that kind of stuff happens every day, bro. It happens every day. And as soon as as soon as you bring it up or you bring it to public's attention, you get blackballed for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so, if that's the case, then that's the case. But if where I am in my career is as far as I get, I can go away saying I did it my way. I was real about it,
Yeah.
and I tried as much as possible to help others.
Yep. Did it
And
righteously. Yeah.
and to me, that's way better than winning 40 Grammys.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
you don't, you can go to bed and know you don't have any demons of,
Yeah.
of doing something or doing something to somebody to possibly better yourself. And it's just like, there's, there's no reason. You'll always get a better experience of helping somebody than putting somebody down. Or, you know what I mean? Like, there are people that they will let someone burn to the ground. Just be like, ha, that'll teach them. And it's
I
like,
know.
just, it's so much easier to be like, hey, man, I just want to let you know I had somebody go down that road and it was a very negative thing. And it is nice that there are people like you that, because, you know, a lot of people, they have the talent, but they're naive and they have no idea. And some of these people, they wear, they wear these smiles, and behind that smile is a sociopath.
Yeah, well, there's just so many snakes, man,
Yeah.
because it's like, this industry's weird because the person who's doing the work, the person who's creating the art, the person that that everything is surrounded around makes the least amount of money. Everybody else in the food chain of what we do, they get their money. If you're going to go shoot a music video, it's going to cost you $2,000, shoot that, whatever it is, 2,000, 5,000 to shoot a music video. That person shooting that music video is going to get his money no matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what. The person promoting the show is going to get their money no matter what. The person that does your flyers or your studio guy, they're going to get their money no matter what. And basically what it's turned into is it's turned into a bunch of artists that are desperate to get their stuff out there, that are having to spend as much money as they possibly can so that all these other people will do their job, so that they might get to a point in their career where they're relevant.
Yeah.
And the majority of the people that do that never see that relevance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They get passed up by somebody else, and then there's just so many people that are there to take advantage of you. I mean, booking agents and bar owners, and but I'm the kind of guy that, like, I will cause physical damage to your property if you don't pay me. Like, that's just the kind of guy I am. I've literally shoved my telly through a flat screen TV back when they were like $3,000 a piece, because the owner said he was going to pay me half pay because not enough people came out. Like, that's just the kind of guy I am. I'm not a shit starter. I don't I don't go out looking for trouble. Um, but I'm not gonna stand by while someone tries to take advantage of me or my friends. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah. It's like the whole saying, like, you may not pay me, but you're going to pay somebody.
You're spending the money
Yeah.
somehow. You're gonna spend it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But you
It's,
could have just paid me. You could have just did what you said you were gonna do and done the right thing, but you didn't.
yeah.
And now the good news is, for every one of those people out there, there's 100 people out there that are trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing.
Yeah. I agree.
And you just got to figure out which the ones those are, and work with those people. But one thing that I tell everybody, like, this is not just advice for musicians. This is advice for everybody. Okay? You have to have zero expectations about anything. So you need to have low expectations but high standards. And if you'll do those two, if you'll do that, you'll be upset less. You'll be disappointed. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
me, if I go, like, every show I go to play, I think it's going to be a shit. I think it's going to be terrible. I do, because when I get there, I end up having a blast, no matter how bad it is. Right? But if I have some expectations that this show is going to be awesome, no matter what show it is, it never equals that, ever.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with going on dates. It's the same way with the job. It's the same way with you know, I know people that are legit mad about this Tyson fight. Like, legit. I've seen one guy post like 30 times about it. And I'm like, you know, what they did is not the problem. The fight is not the problem. Your problem is your expectations. You
Yeah.
expected it to be something that it was never going to be. And so you got to lower your expectations. And when I say high standards, what I mean by that is, I surround myself with people that have high character, and I surround myself with people that tell the truth, and I surround myself by talented people, and I surround myself with people that I enjoy being around, but I don't fully trust any of them. And it's like, I expect every single one of them at some point to screw me over. You know what I mean? And basically what that does is whenever I have a friend do something that doesn't meet my expectations, instead of getting so mad I end the friendship, I'm like, I didn't expect anything different.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to get mad about it. The only time this does not work for me is in traffic.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only time. It's like that's those low expectations, high standard shit flows right out the
Yeah.
window, and I need to figure that out because
I'm
it's pretty
just
bad.
I'm the same way. I'm like Mad Max rules.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
Something changes in me.
yeah. I got to turn on Grand Theft Auto and just run over a million people or something to get it out of my system. But
Yeah.
other than that, man, I really do. I just try to have low expectations and high standards, and I think that's just like the key to happiness, man.
Yeah.
Because if you have expectations, you're going to be disappointed a lot
True.
because people suck
Yeah.
and life's hard,
Yeah.
you know?
It is. Yeah.
And we've been talking for 2.5 hours. So I don't know what your expectations were on that, but
Yeah. It happens. I know my dog isn't happy. He's walked to the door like twice. I'm like, all right.
yeah, whenever Talbot was telling me that like you're different than Soul, like you actually it's just like a free form conversation. I'm like, dude, those are my favorite. I don't like the ones where you get on and they're like, you know, A to B
Yeah.
questions, and I mean, I still do them and I have fun with them, but I like these kind of conversations better. Dude, I had one podcast I just did the other day with a guy that is like nobody knows him. His name is R.D. Floyd, but he's one of the most positive, uplifting people I've ever met in my life. So I wanted to have him on, and we talked for like 2 hours or 3 hours and 20 minutes,
Nice.
and then we didn't even know. We looked down. I was like, oh my! The only reason I know is because my board says maximum. You're about to reach your maximum.
Capacity.
Yeah. So we can keep going or we can end it. It's up to you, bro.
Yeah. I probably should. He ate. It's funny is I've been working a lot of work because I had to pay. He had surgery, and that was a
Mm.
couple grand. And then I get a phone call from the people that watched him yesterday, and they're like, he ate a bag of milk chocolate chips and dark chocolate. I'm like, what? I said, this is gonna be the $6 million dog. But they were like, oh, just monitor him, and like if he doesn't go outside, he's leaving whatever is left in him all over the place. Like,
Oh man, yeah. My girlfriend has a little weenie dog, and he's like 13 or 14 years old, so he's old. He can't really see well, can't hear. But I had a backpack, and in the bottom pocket of my backpack, there were some mushrooms in there, and he like got in there and ate like half a sack of
oh my
mushrooms.
god,
And we got home, and he was tripping balls, son.
like a
And
hypnotoad.
she got all worried about it. I'm like, he's having a blast. Like he's 14 years old. I guarantee he feels like he's 3 right now in his
Yeah.
mind. He's having a great time. Uh, but it was pretty funny. Dogs are crazy, man. I had one dog eat a battery one time.
Oh my god.
The whole thing, 9-volt battery, ate the whole damn thing. Dogs are nuts.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, they are.
all right, brother. Unless you have any more specific questions for me,
Yeah, no, dude, this is great. I, yeah,
I need to get up there and meet you now. And that's what's next. I need to get up there.
yeah. It's funny, like how you say like when you do your podcast, you're trying to make it not about yourself. Like I'm seeing Shane on Wednesday, like 2 days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, he's coming up, and it's funny. Like I really like those guys. They're all pretty. They're all
Well, tell him I
cool.
said hello. I don't have his number or anything. We're not that close or anything. We just opened up for him a few times, and then he's just so super cool, man. He's like just one of the most legit. And then when I was at Steamboat Music Fest last year, and we talked for a minute, 2 minutes, or whatever. Just tell him I say hello.
I will
He I,
if I do get to talk to him.
yeah, he may not remember, but
Hey,
whatever.
he he remembered me. I found him.
Most people remember me.
I found him just at a random bar down in the Key West. He was like, "What's up, man?" I was like, "Oh, dude, this is pretty cool."
Yeah, that's what I love about him, man. He plays a show in front of 2 or 3 thousand people. I mean, now it's more than that. And then he gets off stage and he goes to the merch booth and signs all the stuff. But then he goes and sets at the bar. And it's funny because we have a lot of guys in this industry that Like they think they're gonna get mauled or something, and you're like,
Yeah.
bro, nobody even knows who. Like, there's a difference between being famous and being famous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
even Eddie Vedder could probably walk in tonight. He probably can go grocery shopping and not get mauled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I guarantee you, Jason Boland can do that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I don't know. There's levels of fame for sure. Like Taylor Swift can't do that.
No.
You know?
She would have to like rent out the
Yeah.
Acme or whatever shopping.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right, homie. Well, it was good talking to you.
Yeah, man. Definitely a
Yeah.
good time.
Yeah. I'll send Talbot, or I'll tell Talbot to send you my number, and so that way you have it if you ever want to reach out or anything, or if you're down here in Texas and you want to, or if you want to get in touch with anybody that's in the scene, I might be able to get to help you out in that
Cool. Yeah,
area.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I know a ton of guys. I know you had Trent Cowie on here, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, love that dude, man.
yeah.
Love that dude.
Yeah, I like his new album. I love his sound.
Yeah, he's good. And what the cool thing about him is he's that good live.
Okay, yeah.
Most of the time, I've seen him sometimes where he's not, and I'm just like, Trent, what are you doing? You know, they're young. You know, they're younger and they're partiers. You know,
Yeah,
they like to party, and so which is cool. I wish I could still do it. I just can't. I'm too old. I can't do it.
yeah. I hear you.
You know, but he's a good dude for sure. All right, man. Well, I'll tell Talbot to send you my number.
Okay.
All right, brother.
Yep. Nice talking to you, Jeff.
All right.
Yep. Have a good night.